Ready, aim, release! Anyone see my mammoth? Ah, it's me, Michael, Mickey, that one. And I'm joined this week by Carlo, who at the moment is not there. So let's just remedy that and bring Carlo back onto the screen, even though it is better when Carlo's not here, let's face it. There we go. Carlo, how's your week been?
Good. Yeah, busy as always. We roll on into November. Can you believe? 2 months till the end of the year.
Yeah.
Very soon, we're going to get that December patch, right? January patch, December patch.
Next
month. What? They said it. They talked about it. I maybe believe. I still doubt.
I believe.
I still Carlo doubt. But
big old Carlo doubt. Cool. Well, we're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about all of the things that have happened this week. But this week we're also joined by somebody else, other mystery person. This week we're joined by a guy called Peter, which you may have heard of. He's quite a common poster in the main Discord. How you doing, Peter?
Doing great. I mean, my week was fantastic. Started fantastic because we have a holiday here. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's also like the last week ended with this ELO tournament we had, which I guess we totally not going to discuss today because who cares?
Exactly. Who cares about tournaments and like actual ELO stuff? No one here, right, Carlo?
No.
Cool. Well, yes. Peter is a member of the Polish community, as I've got noted down here. He's a relatively active member in a lot of the tournaments and things like that. And he's become quite an avid user of the site, which is part of why we've got him on here, and also because he asked to come on and talk about the game and to talk about the tournaments and things. So hey, if you ask, you get to come on. That's how it kind of works.
And a prolific Facebook poster too.
Yes.
The dreaded other place, Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely a place where all people come to find the truth and agree on stuff, right? The meta, as we should call it, right?
Yes, the meta.
Melkor says we have echo audio.
Echo audio? I don't think that's us, but I'm not hearing it. That doesn't mean that other people aren't. If it is still bad, Melkor, let me know. Obviously, we'll try and fix that on the fly. And you know how it works here. We fix everything really well.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work is how it works.
Cool. Melkor, you may have opened it twice. Someone has literally done that before, and they've had it open on Discord and YouTube at the same time, and it's playing them both, and it just... I actually did that once when I was watching it back, and I was confused. I was like, why did I record the whole thing with an echo? No, it was my own stupid fault. Sorry, Melkor.
Everybody thinks the audio is fine.
It's probably you. Great way for me to single out and make someone feel absolutely terrible, by the way.
Yeah. Smashed it.
So, anyway, Peter. A Song of Ice and Fire. Obviously, you play. Obviously.
Sometimes.
Sorry, just occasionally. What got you into the game? I mean, what's your gaming background, history, that kind of stuff?
Okay. So, just like I guess half of the people, I'm like a refugee from fantasy battles, and after like a fantasy after kind of at some point, I dropped the drug and I was on the replacement therapy with board games. But then I was lucky to have like first time in my life like this period of like 3 months between the jobs, and I decided to get back on some better drug, and I started checking out like what's in there, and Song of Ice and Fire was like natural choice, and it's also like halfway there, kind of between a war game and a board game, because it got this like worker placement mechanic, and also like it was by the designer Eric Lang is known very well like in the board game community. I love Rising Sun, Blood Rage, Chaos in the Old World actually is a pretty nice hidden gem, and now Ankh. And I mean, then I tried to play it a couple of times, and I guess that was it. Like I'm back to like my name is Peter, and I've been without the drugs for 0 days now.
Marwin wants to know what your Warhammer Fantasy Battle army was. What's your go-to faction?
So on Fantasy Battles, I played Chaos. So I started with Mortal Chaos, and then I played Beastmen. I also I played during the sixth edition and then seventh a little bit, like when like when they
the Golden
kind
Age.
of put. I wouldn't. I mean, it was never like a golden age because, like, as a Beastman player, like in the seventh edition, they did like in order to get rank and file bonus, like you need to have like 5 figures in the roar, and then you had this like beast Gore and Ungore herd, and by default it would go just on 4 models in a row if like minimum, and then you would charge into somebody and you will get no rank and file bonus, and like amazing amazing FAQ and support, and I mean
great game design.
and the balance was like spot on. So if you think what is it? Nightwatch shooting gallery is bad. Like, think again. Literally, like half of the armies were like Skaven gunline, dwarf gunline. If you're like masochist and just wanna play shooting gunline that just fails at it, Imperial gunline, like you name it. And then I think instead of ELO, they had this. ETS or something where they will basically would grade armies for theme, right? And
ETC.
in Chaos, So in for Chaos, basically the only tournament playable army was like super negative, and because for Chaos the only thing you could play, you could take like those knights, Zinj guy on the dragon, and here you go. I was trying to play like boxes of infantry, etc. But I mean, it goes well until you meet like a shooting army, and then you're dead. So that was those were very. I have very fond memories of those times. I mean, can't wait for the older age, and I think it will be like a great success.
I think the way you describe it as like leaving fantasy and then this period of playing board games, I actually think is a really common theme, or at least it's like it's my own experience of like I think a lot of people who ended up at Song like love the fact that it is board game meets tabletop game. And like I really describe it as like a period where like we were like wandering in the wilderness, like looking at board games, playing board games, like trying to find something new when this almost mass exodus of Games Workshop happened, partly because they killed the old world, that like actually killing it and turning it into Age of Sigmar was a big thing for people. But loads of people had left before that anyway. Like
I left
the pinnacle of a long decline.
I left before they killed it, and then I remember on Facebook I still had my friends, and like I read some of their like comments when checked out, and I was like, oh, hold on a second, basically a rule book is full of some silly jokes, and then there are like no points for the army building. Like, is this for real? Like, is it some joke or something? And yeah, so I had and also like I had zero interest in going something which is like in the midway between fantasy and 40k. I mean, if I want to play 40k, I'd play 40k, and I wanted also a rank and file game. So I tried if you remember, there was this from Fantasy Flight, there was Rune Wars, the miniature game.
Yeah,
I am aware of Rune Wars. I'm a huge Fantasy Flight games fan.
Okay,
and I thought that it was going to be huge, and then just like
yeah. Yeah, I kind of, I mean, for me, it was kind of like I played it and I still didn't realize how these things works. It was a little bit like cumbersome mechanics. I really love those X-wing style dials. I think this is a really a great idea where with action selection with different priorities. This is like very
Hmm.
nice, but I mean, the theme is like bland as all fantasy because they made it in their own Terranova IP, which
Yeah.
I mean, I like Descent. I really liked Battle Lores second edition. It was great, but the IP is just garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, classic Fantasy Fight make very good games with an existing IP. Um, when they make their own IPs, they're always a bit lackluster. Um, but yeah, cool. I mean, that was a long story, and to be honest, as Carlo was saying though, one that probably a lot of people actually associate with a lot of their own kind of experiences. Like me and Carlo had something very similar. Um, so it's interesting to hear it as well. It's not just us kind of thing.
Well, I kind of figured it when Carlo routinely call Ready Aim Release Tend and Shoot.
It's
I mean, come on, you don't forget it.
a big shout out to our guy at the club, Dan. Dan, he is so whenever you charge Dan and he's losing, just says stand and shoot. You declare a charge, you stand and shoot, and you go, that's not what that unit does, Dan. That's a unit of swordsmen. And he goes, and.
But whenever he wants, he'll throw in any given Warhammer or 40k rule which he thinks will help him in the moment.
Yeah.
I have they shall know no fear.
Attachment?
I have they shall know no fear. I don't run away. Don't worry. I just passed.
Cool. Right then. So, A Song of Ice and Fire. I assume you like the game.
I do. I mean, I do love the base game design, as I said, because I think it's very nice blend of board game mechanic and war game, and I also like that it's that the randomness, random mitigation. This is something like I lacked in Warhammer, because you have those rerolls. This is like a classic random mitigation thing. And I also like that, unlike Warhammer, it's really hard, for instance, to lose a complete unit from from one attack just to due to poor dice. I can't really like blame my dice in my losses. They still work. They are still important, but I can't blame them for losing games usually. Unlike Warhammer.
Yeah. I mean, Warhammer is bucket of dice game, isn't it? Really. Yeah, that's interesting. It's really interesting that you say that you can't blame dice for losing games from Song of Ice and Fire, because it is something that people say a lot.
Well, I mean, different people have different perspective. But what I'm saying is like, for instance, if you fail panic test, the worst that you can that can happen typically is that you lose like another like 1, 2, 3 figures. Let's not talk about modifiers. Like in Warhammer, basically you run away, and then if you roll not enough on your dice, then another unit would just like completely kill you with overrun. Like, or if you worse, if you play demons, the reason why I never played them like as a whole army is they had this instability, and if you lose like your panic test just by one, you completely like you're done.
Yeah.
Remove it.
Cool. So, you obviously played in a tournament in Warsaw this weekend, right? This past one gone. Yeah. But it's not your first tournament, and it's certainly not your first using of the stats site. So, with A Song of Ice and Fire and your experiences of playing the game and things like that, how did you come about the stats site, first of all, I guess? And why do you enjoy using it? Is that the first part, if you do enjoy using it?
I mean, it's so basically I think like I started seeing it on Facebook over and over again, and then people started running tournaments on it. And so first, like we play, if you see my history, we played this really weird game, like where I took Vargo and Starks, like just to get access to the stats because of the paywall Carlo made that you need to pay with iron or gold price, right?
Exactly. Except there's no gold price. You only pay with iron. There's only
yes. You only pay right. You pay it with iron price, and then I haven't used it for a while, and then people started running tournaments, and then just for one-off games, I found it's much easier, kind of like to send this challenge, and then you can basically what's really cool is that you can do all the preparation stuff just before just like few days before you have the game, and then you don't need to carry like two armies, right? You need to carry just like 4 units or 5 units, 3 NCUs, and that's it. And that's an added benefit. The other thing, of course, is the ego comparison, or I would say the certain organ length comparison purposes. I mean, let's admit it. That's the original purpose of it. And trying to cheat the system, win games with Tywin, and feel good about it. I mean, usual things. Right?
You just touched on the one about only bringing a few units to the game, and Mickey always uses it too. But I honestly have no idea what you guys are talking about. I turn up to the club with 3 armies every week, like every single week. Every single week, I turn up with like 40 units every week.
You think you do, and then you forget key important ones at home.
I do turn up with 40, and then I've missed like one of the units, which is actually in the army list that I want to play. So I have no idea why I turn up with 40 units every week.
I mean, I guess it could we don't have like a club here per se. The place I mainly play is like at the shop, and the way it works is that you need to book a table in advance. So I mean, if you book a table in advance, you know who you're gonna play, and then you send the challenge, and here you go. And I come there usually to play in the evening, and then you can't really pull more than one game.
Yeah, that's true.
But I guess for Mickey it's irrelevant because he's playing Free Folk, so he needs to suffer.
Ouch.
And carry like what, 9 units plus 2 for the cards, right?
Actually, I mean, my solution is great. If people have not seen these, by the way, this is not a random shout out and promoting any company. I know Carlo uses really useful boxes or equivalents, cupcake boxes.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, we're not sponsored by this cupcake box company.
No, we're not. I don't even know what the freaking company's called. That is my entire Free Folk army in those 2 boxes. It's surprisingly compact. If anyone has ever thought about storage solutions or not, get yourself some boxes like that. I know really useful is another common one people use. Really, really, really good and surprisingly useful way to store your units and armies. Aside from the armies you haven't got magnetized or boxes or painted or undercoated, like these iron makers here, which are still in cellophane. So, yes. Anyway, moving on. Are you a Lannister player, Peter? I've just realised the 2 tournaments I've seen you play. You played
not exactly. I'm I have this I guess classic kind of classic story where you start playing Boltons and you end up playing Lannister. Because before we figured out the stats exist, we played like a 1.6 tournament where I played Boltons, and even it was specifically Boltons, so I think I never even used any other unit. I never used. Oh no, it was a league. Sorry. So we played this league with 1.6. And I think I somehow came second, so it was in the 1.6 times. And then for the first tournament, I switched to Lannister and stick to them. And sometimes, and I also have Starks, but I usually play them sometimes when I play with my board game dudes, some friendly games at home. So so then I have the kind of Stark experience. and my motivation was that I got like the Kickstarter exclusive box, so I wanted to keep them. And second, because those two armies they look like they look the most medievalish right compared to other armies. So I really like the look of heavy cavalry and heavy infantry, because they kind of make sense compared like to Baratheon minis.
Baratheon
Which
minis
has
are
those like ridiculous hammers, which have like two sides of the hammers are exactly the same. So if I ever bought Baratheons, I would be completely like converting the whole freaking weapons for them, because they don't make sense.
They don't.
There's not a single hammer in my entire Baratheon army.
All right,
Yep.
that's refreshing.
Took
I mean,
100% converted.
I'm totally fine with hammers, but they need to be like proper war hammers with like two different sides. You know, one for just punching and the other for armor piercing, and having like two same sides. Like, what's the purpose? One gets blunt, and then you switch it over.
Big blunt object gets blunt. Oh well.
Yeah.
This has not gone anywhere near where I expected it to go. We have really just strayed so far off topic.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have like 10 minutes left, because you promised me it will be just half an hour, right?
That's exactly what Carlo said. Right. No, I mean, it's cool that you came across stats, obviously, through Facebook and things. It proves that our social media does work a little bit. And if our social media isn't working, then
Liberal
that's entirely my fault. So, the tournaments themselves. I know you ran. I know one of the things that you were actually really interested in, and I know you did a post on this, but it's, I'd like to get your thoughts on it really, like a bit more firsthand. Was you're quite a big fan of the ELO format, right? Rather than like traditional format style tournaments.
Yeah, well, I mean, sort of like at some point, I understood I just stick of playing like complete all the time, like into three dragons or crossbowmen, and I mean, okay, I get it. You win. Can we do something new? That would be nice. And ELO is kind of like a solution for that without introducing bans. So first, like, people started like doing bans, and they kind of work, but that's like I think a less ideal solution. So that's why, like, I kind of, for me, ELO is kind of a possibility to still enjoy playing 1.7 competitively.
Do you? How long did you play 1.7 before you came to that conclusion? Like, like, I do think that like it's quite interesting around how long people are willing to stick something out, and how, and then do you think that that's unique to 2020 to 1.7 or 2021, or do you feel the same way about what was the worst offenders back in 1.6 as well?
Well, actually, like in 1.6, I played only the very last part of it, and I didn't even I didn't see this like meta Starks with wolf spam. So I was just starting playing. So I would say, but what was really I'd say the general idea of 1.7 was really good. Like that. You limit the damage output because you had a lot of one shots. You could one shot just like with charging with mountain men, and that's it. And there you go. And the other thing is that the card balance was all over the place. I played with a neutral deck. Basically, half of the deck is unusable, half of the deck is OP. So there are still some cards like this in the decks, but it's still much better than like 1.6. I mean, on average. And then getting back to the question, I think with very first like tournament, and it wasn't even like the most optimal build. It was like Night Watch with I think Catapult. Even I don't think they were like, I don't remember Crossbowman, but it was like an Othel build with Catapult. and it was still like pretty oppressive. It would still like unless you specifically draft against it, you're not gonna make it. And then I think it was like Catapult, Scorpion, or Stone Thrower, sorry, Scorpion, and something else. And the guy completely like nailed this tournament. And after that, it was this like Alex Lasky, and huge props to him. After winning it, he said, "I play Nightwatch no more," and he switched to Baratheons, and now he switched over like to Freefold because of Giants are cool. And Giant Army, and I think at that point it was already clear, and then people just started like optimizing those Nightwatch builds. Like they kind of like, I think first they said, oh, we still need like Scorpion, and then it crystallized down just like when people realized they need like to max out the activation. It crystallized down to this option like with twice crossbowmen, with what is it? With watch captains, twice conscripts with Othel, and 3 NCUs, and what is it, like 7, 8, 9 activations, and there you go.
I think that's actually quite a common like sentiment or statement, is that like 2021 isn't worse balanced than 1.6, not particularly not than the end, when Mother of Dragons first came out, Direwolf spam, even like, you know, Free Folk Insignificant spam, are like the 3 things that people talk about from 1.6. But I think that the thing that people say a lot, and is really common, is, but I didn't actually face those things at my local store. Whereas like instantly from the word go, it was like, I am facing Othel gun lines. Like from the word one, like people can obviously see and pilot this Othel list to be incredibly oppressive. Whereas it was actually a very, you know, a very deep tactic, a very net list kind of like, you know, I hate the term net list, but like it was a very long learning process by which 1.6 came to decide that Starks with Direwolf spam was an incredibly powerful combination. Whereas from like literally day one, everybody was like, well, that Othel with those crossbowmen and that watch captain is so obviously powerful. And then like it was almost, I think for a lot of people, it was almost an accident that like, well, of course I'm going to throw in as many cheap conscripts as I can, before people realize like, oh my god, the conscripts are super important as well. Look how much healing they give. This makes this list not die as well as do a ton of damage. And I think that crept in towards the end with 1.6, because when Mother of Dragons came out, that was the first time like you can't not make a powerful list with Mother of Dragons, particularly when the dragons were first released and they were first as powerful as they can be. Even more powerful than they are now.
You can run like one NCU list, right?
Yeah, okay. It naturally forms like a really easy, obvious, powerful list. And people instantly saw this down at their store. As soon as somebody got Mother of Dragons, they wanted to play Mother of Dragons, and they put a powerful list on the table. As soon as somebody plays Night's Watch, they automatically start putting powerful lists on the table. And I think that's really changed like everybody's discussion and mentality around the balance. Despite the fact that, you know, I do believe that like Howland and Rob in 1.6, they had not dissimilar win rates. They were just so much rarer. Like it possibly genuinely was like an internet problem, and not actually a problem that you met down at every single tournament and every single store you played at. Like everybody had to choose not to play that. It was only really people who knew a lot about the game who were taking advantage of that through their knowledge and skill of the game. But like people are just walking into these Othel builder lists and just accidentally happening upon the most powerful thing in the game that is just like not fun to play into.
I would say my biggest problem, and we can start like touching the community chat gradually. My biggest problem, and this is something that bothers me, though I do have some kind of let's say careful optimism over the what was said in the chat. My problem is that you don't even need those combos for Nightwatch to be powerful. I mean, I was playing like the other time in the non-optimal, I guess, John list, and then non-optimal Alistair Thorn list. and I had, and despite like it was 10-2 or something, I felt like I had to sweat through to my victory. And I mean, I had much more experience than the other player, and I was like using really like pushing the limit. If they were playing, like if the same person would be playing, let's say, Starks or whatever, or any other faction except Targaryens. With Targaryens, it's kind of similar. Then I would basically, like, I would just roll them over just because of the pure skill. And here, the idea here is that even if you take suboptimal stuff on Nightwatch and you take somebody who is like just playing casually, usually I would need really like sweat hard for my victory, which is a nice experience, but it shows that the army is not there. And if you take like the lowest level Nightwatch unit, which is Sworn Brothers, I think right now, then if you compare them, okay, Hardened is or like the what is it called for the Warrior Sons is definitely very powerful, but they're very, very comparable by their stats and by the other ability, by their order ability. They're very comparable to really like to Warrior Sons, except of the Hardened. I know it's kind of saying it's like what is it? You're taking the main thing out of them, but it's like 5/5, like 4/5 unit. Seven attacks dice, Thundering, and you get rerolls like for either point or this ability. And see, this is like the bottom, and Warrior Sons is like the second best Lannister unit, and this is like the worst Nightwatch unit.
Yeah.
And you got so many interesting ideas. You can put like this Darion Harris there. It's like an absolute great choice in them. And he doesn't usually make sense like in many things, like especially like with a weakened token. But what I'm saying is, even if you just like remove those combos, they are extremely like a potent army without really like, I don't know, maybe ranger trackers, but I never saw them. But other than that, you can make any other unit play very well, even like with any commander, with anything. And their deck is also like phenomenal. Remember, like there is always this feel like a lot of and my problem like with the chat is that Fabio told that Nightwatch is all about like those combos, etc. And I don't think so. I think it's just about being like basically everything else is being like this stuff you have at home kind of meme compared to Nightwatch.
Yeah, everything's just right. Right at the top. Like every single thing is just at the very top of like.
Yeah, I think
everybody else would be really happy to have that, and to Night's Watch, it's like that's average.
Yeah, and even if you do like comparison, so like High Sparrow is like the third best commander for Lannister. And I think Mercy of the Mother and Shield that guards the realms of men is like exactly this like kind of like Mercy of the Mother is the shield we have at home, basically.
Well, I'm sure we'll get onto the chat in a bit. I actually really wanted to ask you the only question which when I knew you were coming onto, the only question I wanted to ask you really was as far as I'm concerned, the Polish community, both in terms of like the quality of players, the number of players, the activity, the number of tournaments that are going on, it's really, really strong. And I wondered, do you like why do you think that is? Do you think it's to do with like members of the community as a whole? I don't know. Is it like driven by stores, like local gaming stores? Do you think it's driven by just, I don't know what your COVID kind of requirements are. Are we all just going to suddenly become Polish communities in a couple of months when we are allowed? Or what do you think is making the community thrive so much? Because it's strong and it's big.
I mean, absolutely. If you want to become Polish community, like by all means, like move here. You'll suddenly be able to afford buy, an apartment instead of renting it. Like the Uber is cheaper than your subway in London, and I mean,
we live a long way away from London, thankfully. We also we also can buy a house for the same price that it costs to get an Uber in London.
Well. The other price, I interviewed like a long time ago, like in Horsham for Creative Assembly, and I mean, yes, the real estate is not that expensive, but everything else, like the food, etc., is still pretty pricey. Like I'll never move to UK. I mean, it's basically like nice visiting. But living like no, so you'll be very welcome. I'd say. But back to the topic. Basically, like you mentioned, you're going to the club. I haven't seen here like a club in a classic kind of sense. That, for instance, I had back like in Moscow when I played Warhammer. There are shops which have like a certain number of tables, and they have different kind of ideas of either you just voluntarily like buy something, or for instance where I play, you basically every 100 of local currency that you spend there gives you which is about like $30 or $25 so gives you like a card that you can exchange then for event participation or something. And then there are like in Warsaw, I'd say community is a little bit fragmented because there are like quite a few smaller stores. So that's why like our event was only for 12 people because we couldn't like have more than that. We only have like 6 tables. And then but what's interesting, there are like several smaller stores where like I think for some there are like 2 or 3 in Warsaw, and then there are also surprisingly like this strong community where like your Keenan Xavier Marsari is from. He like it's in these basically in the suburbs of it's outside of the Warsaw, is like in the area. They also have like some running the events, which is about like an hour and a half drive from Warsaw. So they also have like a strong community there. And then there are also communities in other cities. Like there is a very strong community in Wrocław, which is kind of like the capital of Polish Silicon Valley. They have a huge store there. Actually, I think they had like those tournaments for over 20 people. Because they and then there is like in Kraków, which is down south, and like in 2 weeks I'm going to Poznań, which is also like they also have like some very good players there. For COVID restrictions, it's basically like I guess the laws are not so strict in the continental Europe. I remember we were just looking at what's happening in Canada with COVID hotels, and we were like with my wife, oh my God, that's good. We don't live there. Like, cause if you want to come back at some point, you needed to stay at the designated hotel, like, and pay $2,000 just to re-enter your own country. So it was insane. And then I would say the restrictions are not so severe, and then this is multiplied on top on let's say a laissez-faire attitude towards the laws in general in the in Slavic countries. So I really feel very much home here. So I remember like at some point, I wouldn't say where, we were putting masks for the photos, right? That kind of stuff. So that's definitely like a nicer place to be during this time. So I guess this helps it, because like I remember during one of your podcasts, like when you guys were saying, oh, when I can play not on TTS, please, and we were already having tournaments like going strong. I don't know, like hopefully the government won't like reintroduce, like there won't be a need like for more again for a lockdown, but everybody, like people were thinking it would happen like mid-October. It didn't happen, so hopefully we can run away without it. So because of that, I guess community is strong. Also, I guess the other thing for Slavic countries, the IP really resonates. I mean, we really love Game of Thrones.
Do you think that proportionally it's more popular than, like, say, I mean, it's very, very hard in the UK to understand, like, because Games Workshop here is so dominant, because Games Workshop is actually is a British company. There is a Games Workshop in every single town here. Everybody plays Games Workshop, like, or has. Do you think that proportionally a song is stronger in Poland? Like, do you think that it's a bigger percentage of the tabletop community, or do you think that it's just the same and the whole community is quite large, quite strong, and like that Poland just has a very thriving tabletop community in general right now?
Frankly, like it's hard. Like I don't want to speculate. Definitely, like there are more 40k or Kill Team players than anything everywhere. I think just in general, people. Let's say, like I wouldn't compare it to Games Workshop, but for instance, if I take just high-profile IPs, like I'd say on regular people. Like on average, people couldn't care less about superheroes and stuff. So if you take like the popular IPs of the recent years, I think this is the IP that kind of disproportionately resonates
more so than Marvel Crisis Protocol. More so than like Star Wars Legion, maybe something like that. It's interesting. Yeah.
And then the other thing I'd say. I guess probably like in like there is more culture like in Slavic countries that you either do something and not do something at all, or you try to excel at it. I saw it in my other hobbies. I mean, my other hobby that I stopped for a while, like due to COVID, is swing dancing. And when I was doing that in Moscow, there would be a lot of people which were like advanced level, etc., and then really, really strong ones. And then when I would go for dance parties, like in LA, for instance, there would be kind of those superstars, international teachers, and the kind of beginner, always BI, what we call like always beginner intermediate. A level, and I think the similar attitude could be like with I would guess with all other like activities or hobbies. And I think just board games are pretty strong here in general. There are like a lot of Polish board game companies.
A lot of like fantastic 3D rendered artwork comes out of it. A lot of like I always see a lot of very flashy and beautiful like Kickstarter kind of companies coming out of it. I that's the one thing that actually like really comes to mind when I think of Polish tabletop games, is like these board games, like I think like The Edge, Downfall, and stuff like that.
What is it? There are this Arthurian game. Jesus, the name went out of my head, which was like the top gross in Kickstarter of the last year. Jesus, sent into this like King Arthur universe. Maybe in chat somebody will help us. Anyway, you got the idea.
Joan of Arc? Is it that one?
No. Joan of Arc is French, but the Destinies was Polish, which was like loosely, which was based on it.
I've tried to stay away from Kickstarter as much as possible. I try, like it steals my money. It steals my money in the night, and then I wonder, I wonder where it's all gone and why I have no miniatures. But it's really interesting discussion. I think it really resonates with me, this idea of like wanting to excel at something or not bothering, is actually like really the way I think of things. But
Tainted Grail? Tainted Grail?
Yes,
Grail.
Exactly,
there we go.
Exactly.
That brings, that rings a bell. Yes, I just think it's really interesting that you think that it's popular and strong IP. Do you play any other games yourself, or are you just dedicated to Song of Ice and Fire at the moment?
Well, I mean, I don't play any other miniature games. I might start Blood and Plunder when I get the Kickstarter. But I right now, like, I have a really great play group here. Like, I have my ex-colleague that I play regularly some 2-player war games like War of the Rings or Hannibal. Kind of like I learned about it when I was still at school, and it still rocks. I mean, I also played like through this, web a web 1.0 kind of website like ACTS with old farts from the US, and they completely slaughter me. This is kind of a very strange way of having fun. Then I mentioned already other Eric Lang's game that I would play like with when we have like more than two for let's say multiplayer games. So I like Rising Sun, but it doesn't get very often to the table. Blood Rage would get. I would play some nice Furies like Castles of Metkin Ludwig, or some of the later like Kickstarter games like some smaller ones like Cleopatra and Society of Architects. I mean, I still do play board games. Oh, we play Ankh at work a couple of weeks ago. It was also like pretty nice. I mean, kind of last piece of the trilogy, or 4 games if you count Chaos in the Old World. I mean, I still enjoy board games. Like,
me too. Me too. They're much.
What do you play?
Much broader temple. I actually mostly play living card games. So I play Arkham Horror. I play Marvel Champions a lot. So I play cooperative living card games because most the people that I don't play A Song of Ice and Fire with, family and friends, they don't like to lose to me. so we have to play cooperative games by majority.
So see, like you move to Warsaw and you start playing the competitive games again.
Maybe. But yeah, I still dabble in board games when I can. I still enjoy them, and it's a much broader church, of course, isn't it? Because I think that for me, the really big thing about board games is that you sit down to what is effectively a balanced starting position. But what makes a tabletop game so deep and enticing, and what I like the most about it, yes, I am finally bringing this discussion back to A Song of Ice and Fire, and maybe even A Song of Ice and Fire balance, is that when you begin the game is already asymmetrical. You've already chosen your army, you've already chosen your list, and you've brought it to the table. And I think that's actually a really important part of what tabletop games are. Like, board games, they strive that whenever we begin the game, everything's even. Actually, a tabletop game says, no, the game isn't even when you begin. And what we're going to do is we're going to see is, do you understand where this game, its advantages and disadvantages lie, and can you leverage them against your opponent? But
I mean,
the thing is that
gray area. Sorry. And then there is a gray area, like those, I really just came to my mind this, either like Joan of Arc, or a better example would be Mythic Battles Pantheon, which is kind of like this skirmish, like board game with miniatures. It's a kind of war game in a box. So you're given the same opportunity in the sense that you don't have to buy into it to play it, but it's hugely asymmetrical, and you're still building your army, or like Battle Lore.
Yeah. Mythic Pantheon's actually a very interesting one. We completely derailed this discussion. We played Mythic Pantheon for quite a while. It's very interesting because actually, because of its like draft-based system. So again, it's a very balanced system, but you're drafting units, is I believe actually the official way to play, or it's the way that it's the mode that we always played. It was directly out of the rulebook. So you would pick a guard, your opponent would pick a guard, and then like you'd start to pick a hero, and you draft backwards and forwards until you came to your points limit. And I thought that that's very interesting. And it's so interesting, like the way that fits in against what people try to kind of enforce on list building, and this expectation that we want the game to be balanced. We want there to not just be an instant right answer, but we understand that there's going to be asymmetricality in the game, and I think that's just really, really a difficult thing to do. And and what the ELO format tournaments are particularly trying to do is they're trying to say, well, yes, there is an imbalance in the game, but we're going to try and say that those who have already exploited that imbalance in the past, well, we're not going to reward you for exploiting the same imbalances. It's already been shown that this thing wins a lot. So we're going to expect you to win a lot if you play it. And actually what you'll be rewarded for is winning with the things that people don't normally win with. So yeah, I finally dragged that whole round conversation right back into this ELO tournament, which we're supposed to be talking about, Peter.
Yeah.
Like 30 minutes ago.
Doug in the chat says I should try Root. Interestingly, I've
been playing
not
Root.
Again to derail the conversation, but I haven't played Root. I have played what's it called now? It's actually its predecessor. Oh, it's called Vast.
Vast. I played it, and it's sort of like I really wanted to like this game. I played it like 3 times, and then I got rid of it because the rule set never clicked.
Yes. I would absolutely, that is exactly how I feel, which is I want to like it, but I find that I spend all of the game like learning and teaching the asymmetricality of it to every single player, and learning my own board while trying to teach other people what their board does. But I do believe that Root is actually much better received than Vast, and is probably a big improvement on it. Anyway. Shall we move on and maybe talk about like the community chat or something else?
Yes. Right.
Mickey finally gets a word in after half an hour of just sitting there nodding.
You guys have been taking it away. I've been able to sort everything out, so this should all run fairly smoothly. Was the event, before we move on, was the ELO event that you obviously took part in the weekend, Peter, was it good fun? Did you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did frankly enjoyed all the games, including the one I lost to Marsara, and I enjoyed that. Finally, I didn't have a crushing defeat from him, just a standard defeat. So this is a progress, I guess.
It is.
I mean, my ego grew as my elo did. So that's the other part of it. But I also, like, I enjoyed we had people coming from other cities to us. So for instance, 2 guys were coming from Lublin, which is like an hour and a half away from Warsaw, and that's also very nice. Like when you get like new players to play with. I think like overall the sentiment was very positive, and if you see the faction distribution, like surprisingly Nightwatch and Targaryen was at the very bottom of it, and even like they would be even without Elo score surprisingly, and it also like kind of pushed people, I think, to into trying the new stuff. I mean, I'm so done playing with Ruse. At this moment, frankly, like I know like Ruse in Guardsman, what is it? The only variation is where you put Ramsey, and then you have like a unit of Blackguard, a unit like Flayed Man. What else? Like
it's interesting because I've actually never run Ruse. Interestingly,
Ruse is super oppressive. I mean,
I really don't know why I've not. You know, I don't think he's not good. Like, I do think he's really good. I just never got round to it. I don't play as much as I would like to play, and I really stuck with Tyrion. And you know what? I've been loving Jamie. You know what? I've shat on Jamie a lot, like in the past, and like also. But I've been loving playing with Jamie. I've been absolutely wrecking Mickey with Jamie.
So
and I even watched him take my army list on TTS the other day and get an absolute smashing win as well. So tell you what, Jamie Commander's actually.
Yeah, I will freely admit I played against Basti after just looking for a game, and I ran literally a carbon copy of Carlo's list. I thought about it, and I don't play with Free Folk obviously as much as Lannisters nearly as much as Carlo, and I just thought, right, well, if I'm gonna run it, I'm just gonna run it as a carbon copy because that's the best way I can understand it. And if I think improvements can be made, I'll make my own improvements after I've played it, right? And I'll be brutally honest. It's so fucking easy to play. Jesus Christ. It's not just your list, but in 4 rounds, as a Lannister player, I played every single one of my 20 cards. Every single one of 20 cards in 4 rounds.
Nice.
Done.
I mean, Jamie's totally like not bad. I played frankly, like I played him once. Unfortunately, it's not on the stats, but I took the Knights of Casterly Rock and I won. And people were asking me whether I will take Crossbowman next time. So my answer would be, and I will like poke you again when you make the full army Elo. Because my problem right now is like Elo kind of addresses the issue, but it still feels like, especially like with Lannister. I mean, we had this conversation with Marsara. Also, I was saying to him like, oh, I have like 4 units in Lannisters basically, and he was like, oh well, I mean, it's twice as many as I have in Free Folk, basically.
I would say yes. You know, the full army ELO is like somewhere on like the Christmas wish list. I know that it's absolutely the top thing that Peter's been looking for.
I know why not. I mean, I know your answer. Why not? You touched upon this, but I'm still holding my fingers.
Yeah, me too. I'm hoping that I'll have time to implement something. Really, the thing is the difficulty actually is that I don't want to force it on everybody. And so. And I really don't want to have 2 different ways to submit again because it was an absolute nightmare in the past when there was ranked and unranked and TTS and not TTS and all these things. You know, like I was like never again.
Hold on. It doesn't have to be like I suggest just making the full army Elo. Just make it as a handicap option for the tournament. Don't change like the scoring system. Just make it as an option for tournament, and that's it. Like Elo, like I don't care as much about as highly I'm ranked as much as what I can get like for tournament play. Basically, I understand that
I do agree with you,
makes it inconsistent, but probably least of 2 evils.
Yeah, I do agree though that, like, you know, the whole system tries to say everything is a viable choice. Everything, you know, play what you want. But while Lannisters, particularly, because I would say that their commanders aren't wildly different in Lannisters. You know, like, yes, there are some that are stronger, some that are weaker, but it's not like Alistair versus Othel, right? Which is like a huge difference. Lannisters, when they're played like competitively, shall we say, no matter what commander you have, I find myself always drifting towards the same builds. We see Tycho in everybody's lists. We see Baelish in everybody's lists. We see Flayed Men in every list. And ideally, the site would want you to be able to say, you know what, I don't want to run those things. I don't want to, and I will be rewarded for not taking the same things as everybody else. So, you know what, mentality-wise, I really, I think we'll get there. Hopefully, you know. Don't forget. Unit ELOs is actually something that I only implemented almost on a whim. When 2021 came around, I just thought, I wonder what these numbers will be if I start counting these up. What will they come out as? And I think the community's really like what it's produced and the information that's there. So hopefully we can do some good stuff with it.
Definitely. Now we're going to move on because we've been talking loads and I mean it's been an hour, and Carlo said that this 30-minute chat that we were going to have, Peter, and your experience and everything, take an hour.
I think it's you who promised 30 minutes, Mickey.
I did.
And Carlo said it will be twice as more.
Exactly.
So both of you lied technically.
I simply just I don't. It's my fault. I don't control Carlo enough. Carlo talks too much. Right. And by the way, we haven't mentioned Free Folk this week, so Free Folk. Anyway. So we are going to look at some other stuff. We're going to go through the news, and Peter, you're more than happy to join us on this. I think you're more than happy to join us and take your insights into here, because there's, we've had some stuff, and yet
in the
again,
chat are loving some of your quotes, so keep them coming.
Yeah, definitely. Yet again, Asymmetry Spain have done an absolute solid. And also, one of the guys on Discord, and I cannot remember his name, alerted to this. So if I do remember his name mid-stream, or if I find it mid-stream, I'll remind you. But massive thanks to him for putting us onto this. He's the guy who has obviously been trolling and finding this information out.
Was it Mikhail? I saw from Mikhail.
I know
I think I saw Mikhail talking about it at least, but
Mikhail mentioned it.
Possibly came from somewhere else originally.
It was Albaster. Albaster on Discord, his name is. Always shout out to the guys who actually find this information and send it over to us. But yeah, like he's obviously clearly checks this stuff out regularly, and we saw 2 releases this week, or 2 more leaks. The Riders of Highgarden. They have a nice Spanish description there. I'm not going to read it out, and you can Google Translate it for some absolutely hilarious moments where the translation is not quite exactly what you think. Which is always fun. But yeah, so we saw the Riders of Highgarden, which we have seen in the leaks. Let's have a look at the image there.
I'm wearing my Renly NRG hoodie in honor of them.
Yep, plug for
my
NRG
green stag.
merch. I'll post a link if I can find it. And also,
I am wearing my Renly NRG hoodie in honor of them, but I'm 90% there, but I'm not like instantly like, oh my god, amazing sculpts. I think their helmets are a little bit weird, especially the guy in the top right. I think from certain angles they just look a bit odd with like the shape and then like the weird like kind of laurel around the top. I'm mostly there. I'm not saying bad, but I'm not like best sculpt this year or anything. And I'm a big Renly fanboy, so that's a tiny bit disappointing. Will still buy 2 boxes, obviously.
I think those helmets are kind of in the middle of a weird like tournament helmet and this gladiator helmet, and those laurels should usually run through his forehead, so that's why it kind of looks weird. I suppose.
The thing that really annoys me, you know how traditional Bavarian like plaits, they plait them around the front, women's hair, right? They'll plait them around the front. When you look at these helmets from certain angles, that's what it looks like. It looks like the plaits, not
especially the guy in the top right.
Yeah. And so it just looks like it's got this guy with an armored face who's then got hair in my head, and I just
also
can't...
this neck thing that comes high on the shoulders. It's very stylized. It's not bad, but I'm not fully sold by the style that they've gone for. I do think that they've leaned into it, and that's fine. And I think they'll paint up really nice in like a really strong, that green and cream is often the colors that people do Renly in, like rather than like green and like specifically white. But I think that they'll come up really nice. I think that they are really nice horses. A Song of Ice and Fire have been doing really, really on point horses ever since like Dothraki came along. Ever since Dothraki, the horses and the level of those sculpts have been great. Just not quite there on the riders. Do like the lance. Kind of happy that they're super, super light lance cavalry with just a lance, no shield, all that kind of stuff sits with me. Just the armor's a tiny bit off for me.
Chris there says he can't wait to break off some of the lances. Tell you what, these guys remind me of. I was in back old fantasy days. I played a lot of Wood Elves, and they remind me of the lanced Glade Guard units you could get with like the Bannerman and the Glade Guard on the mounted ones. So yeah,
I think they're called Glade Riders.
Glade Riders,
maybe.
Yeah. Glade Riders.
Yeah, something like that.
Spear, or the one that had the banner on the horse. Made him. Oh, lovely. Anyway, so that was one of the units. We also saw Greyjoy Heroes 2 come out or get announced on pre-order. And again, Spanish. Now, I did.
And I've just been reminded, as we laughed about last week, this all came out on Tuesday or even Monday night, or like this is old news and always is. Goddamn Tourney Ground, always on the wrong day of the week. Yes, but here we are. This is almost a week.
Do we discuss the stats of High Guarded Cavalry?
We won't necessarily go into details, mainly because like the stats we saw.
I don't believe that they'll still be the same. That's why I'm not discussing them. Not because
they're leaks.
Because they're a leak or it's secret. I just don't think that they'll still be there. If they are, I'll be very, very happy. It'll be a very usable 6-point cavalry unit, very similar to Dothraki Outriders, which is interestingly going back to your point talking about Night's Watch versus like things in Lannisters. Actually, Dothraki Screamers. Dothraki Screamers are actually, I just happen to be looking, are actually one of the least well-rated units within Targaryens. And so it's interesting that, like, as a Baratheon player, I would be desperate to be able to have a unit of that quality and that point cost. And if they came out to be very similar to them, I would absolutely love it. But jumping ahead to the community chat, they mentioned that the Lance rule will be changing. And so I'm very nervous around what change that means for these guys, because I can't possibly see them remaining at 6 points if they have an improved Lance rule. If they do, then fucking yes, Renly is on. Renly for King in 2022. But I really don't think that Baratheons will ever be that lucky that they'll keep 6 points and an improved Lance rule.
That's 7 morale though.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. You 6 points, your movement 6, and you
got Lance,
and you fucking you hit like a truck. That's all you need to do.
Yeah. Hit like a truck. My guardsman would root.
All right.
With a working token.
God, Lannister players. I should really just get different guests on. Anyway, right. So we go on to Greyjoy Heroes 2. The description is here. From the description, though, this is quite important to notice. You can translate this, but straight away you get names of all the characters. So we have Asher Greyjoy, we have Christopher Botley, we have Baelor Blacktide and Dagmar Cleftjaw. We have Beron Blacktide and Morocco, as he's pronounced here, which is not his name. If you actually go and check it up in Song of Ice and Fire lore, as you'll know, it's actually Mokoro. So yes, they're all there, and so I spent all of about 5 minutes putting together the image based on who they were and doing a little bit of checking over kind of like likely sculpts related to. And these are the names, these are the sculpts, and these are the guys here that we've basically had confirmed. We've got another Asher. We are all assuming at this point she's going to be another commander. There are 2 commanders in the box, widely believed, and we're thinking this is Asher Queensmoot/Kingsmoot variant of the commander. We've got Dagmar, popular character, crap in the TV show, brilliant in the books. Mokoro, who, if you know who Mokoro is, he gets killed. Yeah.
As a non-book nerd lore style, interestingly, I actually know most. I've watched TV shows. Actually, I know the most of my lore and background and deep knowledge from the living card game. So there are some characters here I actually recognize from the living card game, being Dagmar, who was pretty on point in the living card game. Honestly, the rest. I'm just like, I'm like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah,
which is interesting.
So there's some really weird ones here.
I mean, wait for the sorry. What was his name? This orange faction that we're waiting for.
Martells.
Wait for the Martell box 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's literally no one in it that anyone knows. The funny thing is...
Yeah, super excited about this box, by the way. Like, I can't wait you to allow them for London GT 2025.
It's soon. Like, it's weird, isn't it? It's weird. This is very early in Greyjoy life cycle for a Heroes 2 to come out, right? So then it does leave these big questions around, well, are they really coming out? Like, because everybody's like, really? That's surprising for a start, because Greyjoy's Hero 1 hasn't actually been released in a lot of places. Like, like it's not actually available. It's crazy to think that like Night's Watch and Free Folk, they've waited forever for Heroes Box 2. And here we are with the Greyjoys getting Heroes Box 2 straight away. And it being filled with characters that people are like, well, I wasn't in any desperate rush for you to release that person. I didn't hear anybody being like, yeah, but where's Baelor Blacktide? Like, it's not like these characters were being missed from the game.
No. I mean, Mokoro, for what it's worth, people might not know this, Mokoro is a priest of R'hllor, right? He's the R'hllor priest that is part of the whole Kingsmoot. And the Kingsmoot in the books was crap, absolute garbage in the TV show, right? The Kingsmoot in the books is a really interesting thing, and you learn all about these characters. Black Ben, as he's known, or Black Baron is his actual name. Blacktide is obviously he's a god, a priest of the drowned god. That one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's Christopher. Actually, he was sent off to the Citadel when he was a kid for playing with Asha. I think they were playing, and he shouldn't have been playing with her, like as kids do. And he was sent off to the Citadel, I think, for a while. So he's got some knowledge from like there. And Baelor Blacktide was actually sent briefly to the Seven Kingdoms, I think. And he's actually he doesn't believe in the Drowned God anymore, and he actually believes in the Seven, right? And so they're not all, except from Blind Ben, they're not all staunch, like,
they're a very eclectic mix of like various religions and beliefs.
Yes.
And
who Asha really wanted to kind of like still include within Greyjoy culture. But obviously Euron's an absolute nutter. Who basically went, nah, fuck that shit.
I wonder if they'll push any kind of religious front onto the Greyjoys in general. There exists their own unique pillage mechanic, but are they going to do anything around the various gods, the Drowned God? Because obviously the Drowned God is very deeply rooted within their deck in terms of, that which is dead may never die, and like the wording of their cards, but whether or not it doesn't like have a real mechanic in that way. It'd be interesting to see if they actually push any kind of faith-based mechanic on them.
Right. Apparently I was wrong.
Like faithlist in Lannister or lore build in Baratheons, and you want like a Drowned God build like for Greyjoys, basically.
It's strange that you should say that, a Drowned God build, right? Because now I saw this when I wasn't on my computer, so I couldn't save the image. But I believe if we go
wild speculation incoming.
This is not wild speculation whatsoever. This is good old Mickey doing his job and collating all this information from everywhere all the time. We saw pre-order forms come out for some places. And on the pre-order forms was a unit that was otherwise unknown, called Drowned. I think it's called Greyjoy Drowned Men. Is a unit called Drowned Men. Now I will just quickly find the image. I have no idea where I saw it, so this might take me a couple of minutes. But you're going to talk about all the speculation around Drowned Men, aren't you, Carlo?
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't say that I want there to be a Greyjoy religious kind of faction or part of. I just speculate on it. Like I don't know if I. It's interesting. I never even really thought about it. I don't know if I like the R'hllor part of Baratheons, or even necessarily the faith part of Lannisters. Peter? Do you think that like the faith part of Lannisters and it being such a key mechanic enhances the game for you, or is it just a unit?
Yes and no. I mean, for me, the thing that I was talking is that I feel like this is nice because it kind of breaks the panic meta. My main problem with Lannisters is that they're basically like their core deck forces like it strong hands me, or what's the right word? Like basically it's like breaks my hands and makes me like pushes me toward the playing like panic meta over and over again, because half
Yeah.
of the basic deck is about panic and
Yeah.
controlling the crown and what have you. And I would have really loved that it would go like to this more like to the commander specific cards, or
Yeah.
to maybe have it like 4 cards like in Targaryen, or the whole new deck as in Free Folk. So kind of like the Faith is a nice alternative in that perspective. Now, from the negative standpoint, there are just like 2 units and 1 commander to support it, and you can't really make any more because there aren't many like in the
Yeah.
lore.
Yeah.
And the other problem is that right now it's like kind of half of the Lannister meta, and you can't really like, and it's also like kind of this meta which makes you survive and score points instead of fighting. The thing that we were talking about, like much like the insignificant spam, where you win a game with scoring like zero, like with killing 0 points from the opponent.
It's interesting that like when you actually think about it, because I never really stopped to think about it that much, but everybody's assumption and everything so far has pretty much said faith equals good morale, right? Like basically faith is zealot. Like that is like everybody has some kind of faith, but we're only a faith unit if we're absolutely insanely dedicated to this god and to the point where we no longer fear anything. And that is interesting because the assumption is just like, hey, there's a Greyjoy faith unit. It's like, well, it's got good morale, then, hasn't it? Everybody would actually be like, if that unit came out with 7 morale, everybody would be like, that's weird. That's not a faith unit. So yeah, I think that they could go in a totally different direction with faith. It doesn't have to indicate high morale. It doesn't have to be when you pass a morale test, you gain a faith token. But then, like, what else is it going to be on? Like, when you destroy a rank, you get a pillage token. Like, when you pass a morale test, you get a faith token. Like, these are how these things work. So I guess
I guess you can trade it for different things. Like you can more play onto this reborn kind of thing. But frankly, I wouldn't be too pissed, because for Greyjoys it would be a nice kind of change of pace. Because like as I guess what is it? Greyjoy morale is an equally kind of spread meme as Baratheon tax right now.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't hurt to get like a Greyjoy high morale unit, I suppose.
I guess it's just it's interesting now that I think about Baratheons. Actually, one of the problems with the Baratheon faith is that their morale isn't good enough, and that like everybody complains that like Queensmen, their morale's not significantly better than Wardens, and so and that it's tied into this idea that faith-based commanders bring things like Stalwart and Iron Resolve and things like that, which are going to then improve the morale.
Oh, for me, like faith-based units, like if you take the ones with a Rolor in their name, those would be high morale units if you compare them to other factions.
Are you giving up looking yet, Mickey?
I have given up looking. I can't seem to find it. I will see if I can between now and next week.
What's the unit called again?
I believe it's called Drowned Men. It's called
Drowned Men.
Literally called Drowned Men as the.
And where was this? Was this on like was this on a US pre-order form?
I believe it was on a US pre-order form. And it also had a load of dates on it. It's really annoying I can't find it actually, because it would have been particularly interesting to bring up actually. But yeah. Yeah, alas. If anyone has found it, if anyone does know where it is, feel free to drop me a link or send it to me. That would be super helpful. But yeah, it was things like Drowned Member on there. We saw Stark and Lannister separate boxes. Now that is a bit more kind of like, yay! But we already knew it. And we knew it because we expected it, and we've been expecting it for a long time. Yeah, I mean, it's good news, right? It's good that Starks and Lannisters are getting new boxes or starter boxes on their own. Is it a good thing that they're getting resculpts? Is it a good thing that they're changing what's in the starter sets? Maybe.
I'm fine with it actually, like, cause I never got another box of halberdiers, and I hope they will be playable. I love the sculpts, but I hate that we have those like just 3 different guys. I don't really think I need 4 boxes of guardsmen, but if I ever run double guardsmen, I want them to have like different sculpts.
Yeah.
So I actually I like this change. And the other thing is, I wonder what this 4th unit would be. And this is my problem. We kind of had some theories that because on the Stark box there is this like Karstark spearman looking guy. It could be like a Karstark spearman, and that would be a big bummer, because I don't think I need 2 units of those, and the same kind of like then by comparison, the theory is for symmetry, maybe Lannisters get like a unit of Clegane brigands, and that would also be a bummer. I would much have preferred like a resculpt than of an existing unit. So I get like all new content kind of thing for kind of collectorship purpose. Otherwise, I mean, kind of nice to have updated rulebook and to have a bit more terrain pieces, because I lost a couple of them during the last event. But and another D3 die. But other than that.
I have plenty of them. I have plenty of both of them.
Okay.
I would buy Lannisters, like I'm pretty sure, but I just buy the stuff. I buy everything. So I'm not a good gauge of that. I would buy it for new sculpts, including the guardsmen.
Yeah.
I already have way too many guardsmen. I think actually I technically have 5 units of guardsmen. I have 2 starter boxes, and then also I ended up with an accidental extra 5th unit, as you do.
Usually people get like 1 starter and split it, so you went the opposite way. Right.
Yep. I do like the Jaime sculpt that we've seen, and I think that people are speculating that it would be Clegane Brigands replacing Mountain's Men. That's based around this idea that people think that because Jaime and the Mountain will still be Jaime and the Mountain as 2 commanders, that people think that there needs to be a Clegane unit in there, because there is, other than the Mountain himself, there is no Clegane keyword in the base box, right? And that would be a weird entry point into the game if you first got this and you were like, I have one of the 2 commanders that I can pick. Half of his cards say, "Hey, do this thing with Cleganes," and there's only himself.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, because you're supposed to get like the worst units in a starter box, and what else can you exchange Mountain Main for?
Yeah, the only thing that's getting worse is the Clegane Brigands, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But it will be. I do believe that the sculpts have come a very long way from where they used to be. I think that the really old sculpts show their age now. It was interesting that in the community chat, Michael did touch on it a little bit, in that the very, very original sculpts of Guardsmen, Swan Swords, and I think Umber Berserkers he mentioned, they were actually intended to be sprues, which were multi-buildable, like multi-posable, swappable weapons, all that kind of stuff. And that since they moved on to them, he says that allowed them to massively move on. But they've just been moving on every 6 months, every year.
Yeah.
Pretty much every faction has moved on from the last. Newer sculpts are generally better. There are some that like seem older, or like you can tell when you get a certain box that you're just like, this is kind of like the old stuff, whereas new stuff is generally like
I'd
super
say,
super exotic.
yeah, my problem is not that much with sculpts. Actually, I love the old sculpts. I love the guardsmen. I love the halberdiers. I'm even okay with Stark sculpts. My main problem is that there are just like 3 poses. I mean, I don't know how I will paint the other 2 boxes of poor fellows. I already got bored. Okay, and with poor fellows, those are like completely flat sculpts. That's
Yeah.
kind of like
I
2
mean,
of 3 are completely flat. It's just like Warhammer 5th edition. You know,
I
with
was dancing around it, but to be honest, poor fellows were the unit in my mind, right? They came out quite late into the cycle. They like Free Folk had come along, Night's Watch had come along.
Yeah.
They were both way higher quality, like sculpts, dynamic, all that stuff. Then Free Folk, then Poor Fellows came out, and I, as a Lancer player, was like, oh, because I really thought that the game and the sculpts had moved on a long way since then. So maybe those sculpts are older. Maybe they just happen to be bad ones. But
I think they are older because poor fellows look exactly like the guys you have on the Kickstarter exclusive corpse piles.
Yeah.
Right.
They are exactly the same dresses, kinda, and so I actually like I do want the new sculpt so I can put like more unique models on the trays. I mean, after again Warhammer or every basically miniature game where you can customize the poses, I think this is very nice. Even if I'm like getting repeated units. I'd be waiting to see which units they would pick as the number 4. It would suck to have spearmen and brigands after everybody like got a box of them, but I mean, would make them good money.
I think Karstark Spearman would be a very odd choice because there are still no Karstarks, right? There are still no.
Yeah, but they are on the box. That's
exactly.
why.
Yeah.
Maybe they're gonna go into it with the Karstark Loyalist unit, which has been mentioned.
Oh, that would be very nice.
You know,
that would be nice, and we'll get a 3rd Clegane unit then.
Maybe we get 2 Karstark units or 2 or 3 Karstark units with a Karstark commander. You know, you can't not have like in the Song of Ice and Fire that we know. We are at this point we're actually convinced that there will be a Karstark commander coming out for Starks at some point in the future, because the Karstarks was such a major part of the lore of Starks in the North, and like it's undersold in the TV series, but the whole thing where they like basically get rid of the Karstarks and they kind of kill them off because of the treason. Like,
I would totally be pumped to get them for my Roose Starks fun build.
Yeah, 100%. You know, and you know they were absolutely huge. So the name was Black Tides. So it wasn't Drown's Men. I apologize. It was Black Tides.
Yeah. That
Chosen.
rings a bell actually. Black Tides Chosen.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Apologies on that. Having not been able to find the damn post, it's been a pain in the ass to try and remember it. But yeah, cool. Right. So this week, we actually have got an image for you. You don't say. I don't try and find these things for us. Shout out to Aaron Damphir on the main group for this one. We see Black Tide Chosen there at the bottom.
Does that have a date then?
Yes.
Or is it just a code?
Yeah, it has a date. The 10th of December.
10th of December.
So that's
doubt.
What you'd say that?
But that's coming out with Bowman and Reavers, right? As
Yep.
individual boxes.
Yep.
Okay.
Interesting. So they're coming this year and they're not yet announced.
I mean, this is Simon we're talking about, and
Oh yeah.
Asymmetry,
I'm
right?
sorry. Yeah, right.
This is actually
And this would be unprofessional to comment about it.
what you have to remember, Peter, in this area, as we'll get onto in a second when we talk about the community chat in general. This list here that you see of these 3 units coming from A Song of Ice and Fire, this is the release date for Canada. The rest of the world won't get them until 2025.
Canada will get their own special 3 boxes to make up for the 50 releases that they're missing.
I mean that could be a minor, but yet another reason why I'm happy I'm not there anymore. Though ordering from US is definitely easier than doing that from Poland. We have also like very weird distribution. We kind of like we already have officially like Karstark, Spearmen, and Brigands, but Red Cloaks are still not out officially in Poland yet.
Are they out in the UK?
Yeah. You can buy.
Okay.
Someone literally asked, "Can you buy Thornwatch and like Q3 releases in the UK?" And the answer is yes. You can buy these boxes.
Why the fuck have you got Thornwatch?
Because it's my prize for my prize from the GT.
All right.
Because they.
I need a 3rd unit of Thornwatch, Mickey.
Do you want mine?
Is it like it's like a prize for the last place, so you stay there?
No, I picked up something that I didn't think other people would want, and then it turns out no one wanted the Targ stuff, so I should have picked that. No, so the funny thing is that they aren't released in the UK, but they are also released in the UK. And I was doing loads of searching because I was like, yeah, these been released. These are accessible. You can buy these, and people were like, what? Where? And I was like, well, I literally did some online searching and gave people like a list of sites you could go on in the UK to buy this stuff, right?
I guess could always get worse. I mean, like in Canada, people don't have pikemen, and I have like I think a couple of months ago, like on Facebook, a guy from Germany was asking which army are poor fellows from.
Dear.
Yes, I mean, I'm everybody in the chat is telling you wrong, Mickey. Red Cloaks aren't out in the UK.
Yeah. So Red Cloaks aren't, right? Red Cloaks aren't, but all of the other releases are.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, but not Red Cloaks.
No, not Red Cloaks. No.
Not the Q2 release. Yeah. Red Cloaks.
But also not Greyjoy Heroes 1. Still.
No.
Like, anyway, it was also a thing. You know how some boxes fell off a cargo ship? Remember that story? Yeah, it turns out that 40 boxes didn't fall into the off the ship. 106 fell off the ship. So a lot more cargo was actually lost than was ever publicly mentioned. So there is actually
a lot of out of the ships and then sold on eBay, right?
Well, so there's a lot of rumors saying that actually, like, there's a good chance that actually it was some potentially of the Asmodee stock that went missing.
We're talking about 106 containers, right?
Yeah, 106 containers.
When you say boxes, you don't mean 106 boxes of Thornwatch, because I don't think anybody would notice. I don't think 100 missing boxes of Thornwatch explains why our entire Q2 release went missing.
But yeah, that's a thing apparently. So yeah. I guess the last thing we will move on to, and we'll talk about it because we wouldn't be a real, news kind of like thing if we didn't talk about it. It is the feature from the weekend.
Chit-chat.
It is my second favourite thing to do on a weekday. It's to talk about how Simon portrayed themselves in a public image this week. And this was Simon. After months of not hearing from them, here they are. Now, I'll be honest, I did not listen to this live.
Well, we sort of did. We stuck it on the phone while we were playing at the Games Club. I mean, it's Friday night for us when they do it. So we were playing games.
Yeah,
we were playing Song. Did you listen to it, Pia?
I listened in a recording because I was playing like board games at that evening. Yeah, not live. So I guess we can start from the positive things, like great costumes.
I said it elsewhere, but like honestly, it's continuous now. Fabio always looks like he's literally just come in from an all-nighter.
Yeah, he looks like he's completely, maybe even still, absolutely pissed as a fart, or hungover, and really doesn't give a shit about being there. Helena did a great job on the Cersei costume. The Eddard thing was, I guess, funny. And Michael Chanel randomly going as the main guy from The Boys was like...
Billy Butcher?
Yeah, Billy Butcher. I was like, yeah, cool, but like...
It's weird for us. It's weird for us because Halloween isn't a big thing here. Like, adults don't dress up. In the UK, adults don't dress up for Halloween.
Unless you actually go out to a Halloween party where, like, it's a fancy dress party, usually where kids are involved as well. Like, you do just simply don't get dressed up.
I don't know. Here, I guess, like, you a lot of times, like in the office, in the companies, they encourage you to come up in a costume. Both like in Canada or here, it was like the same.
No. Not in the
UK. Was pretty good. Like my wife actually won the best costume when she brought like our pet snake to the office. So he basically, like, she got a gift card, and I think it was like more on that gift card than the snake costed. So he already like put his own weight basically.
That's pretty cool.
For in the UK, that's Christmas. People dress up for Christmas, but they don't dress up for New Year's.
Not really.
For Halloween. And people would be expected to go into work one day, maybe as like the Christmas dress up day. Everybody wears like a Christmas jumper and that kind of stuff. But just quickly to Joey, who asked, "What does Helena do?" That is an interesting. That is a question I've asked myself. No, I believe so. Helena is actually like effectively like their interviewer. She actually, I'm pretty sure, doesn't do any game design. She's not there to talk about the game at all. She's effectively their
social media.
Like
she's their social media kind of like.
Yeah, she's their social media, but she's there to supposedly move the conversation along. It's odd. She doesn't interview them in any kind of way, but she introduces them. And she says, like, hello, here we are. That's what forms the really awkward small talk at the start. And then things generally get better once Fabio and Michael just start talking about the game. But Helena is actually relatively newish. I remember when Helena didn't used to do these videos.
She's been doing them basically since just before COVID, right? Or just like as COVID hit kind of thing. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for her in some ways, and I also feel like, she gets lumbered a little bit.
But she does all of them, like, she's there interviewing them for,
other games, right?
for their various Kickstarters when a different, I've seen Michael and Leandros, whatever his name is, talking about Masters of the Universe and stuff like that, and it's Helena with the two game designers or two people from that game. So she is the single fixed constant in their community chats.
And I think she's like picking questions from the chat, like to ask. So pretty much like a moderator of the conversation.
Moderator, that's the one. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, she like moderates the whole thing. She keeps it moving forward.
Yeah.
Anyway, just like our own kind of crap, like little small talk discussion. What about what they actually said?
Yeah.
So basically, like I'm kind of like I kind of enjoyed that they focused on rebalance. This is nice thing to hear that it's coming out like in December end of December / beginning of January. If that really happens, that fulfills one of prerequisites of me coming to Always Winter. The other two is being reasonable COVID policies and affordable tickets. so it's pretty unrealistic, but let's keep the fingers crossed. And
Mine are.
thank you. I think there were some the other positive things is that some of the things that they actually mentioned are kind of like reasonable moves in the right directions, and that's that ends it. The positive things there for me. From the negative things, my main bite is basically being really defensive, even about like some smaller stuff. Like they're literally when they were asked, hey, why can't you do like instead of 40 points I don't know 1,000 points like in Warhammer? They, instead of saying you could react to it in many different ways, right? You can, even if you don't want to do it for some reasons, you can say, hey, it's a nice idea, we'll think about it. But they immediately turn defensive and starting putting out like ridiculous reasons why not. I mean, it's easier to count. Well, I mean, yeah, but you have this app which does the counting for you, so come freaking on. And then
that was actually the biggest amount of bullshit that I'd ever heard them say. Not because I disagree with what they said, because of something else that they said, and it was, if we're doing it, basically they freely admitted they were just admitting at this moment that physical is not the way that they can proceed, so they're going digital, and then they're like, we're going digital, but we have to keep it simple so you can do all the additions yourself. But if you're doing it digital, it doesn't matter.
I don't think anybody liked that answer. Like I have to agree that it's so much better to like. I'll start with my positives. I thought that they were very well. They talked about balance a lot. They focused on balance a lot, and I think that's way better than these chats that they've had in the past, where it's like they'll barely touch to the discussion of balance, and then they'll be like, "Hey, new units, new renders, like look," and it's like, and everybody's a bit like, "A, I don't fucking believe that they're coming out next quarter," and B, can we please talk about the game right now rather than like, I hate the look ahead mentality. I'd rather they discuss the game right now, the reality of the game that we're all playing.
Well, also,
rather than constantly discussing the game that they say is going to come out next month, when it's not, is it?
For what it's worth, Carlo, as well, is that they've stopped being the beacon of news when new units come out.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like they yeah. Go on.
So I thought that was just like generally a really like, whether or not you like what they talk about, the fact that the topic in general that they were talking about balance, I was like, oh, this had more stuff in it than I actually thought. And secondly, like, I actually thought that Michael specifically really just discussed the balance in a more open and direct way than ever they have in the past. Now, like, I still think that
I guess they couldn't like ignore it longer than they did.
No.
Yeah, like I still think that they can be more open about it, or more specifically, they can be less defensive about it still. But like, I do think it was a huge step forward that they were willing to say things like, yeah, there's a problem with this bit of the balance, and we're looking at fixing it.
Hold on. Here's the difference. They never said there, and this is my problem, is that they never said there is a problem. And this is kind of like, for me, this is kind of this attitude where you're not like defensive or what have you, like, or I don't know, I'm always right kind of attitude. Like, it's nothing. They kind of afraid or told to like not admit that they actually like screwed up with 1.7. And I think this is just like a grown up thing to do. Say like, oh, sorry, like we really screwed this thing up, and this is how we're going like to fix it. And I don't really like watching, especially like at Kickstarters, where some creators are mature enough to do that. I think that community always react in a very positive way, the majority of it. And this is kind of sad thing for me that they're still like kind of playing this like like this super corporate way of never but even some corporations do admit, oh, okay, sorry, like we kind of failed you. So I'm just not getting it from this, like grown up perspective. Yeah, say that there are, like, admit that there are problems, and if you listen to them, they say, oh, rebalance is coming, but they never admit there is like an elephant in the room.
Yeah, I think that they took really big steps forward, and like just to even broach the fact that they broached the discussion as there is these things in balance which we're looking at, as opposed to in the past, rightly or wrongly, like, I mean, I'm not going to go back and listen to every single statement that they've ever made, but I feel like in the past that basically the sentiment has always been, oh, has always been our plan. We were always going to look at the balance after 6 months. We were always going to do this thing. Now, they still said that, okay, this is like our mid-year balance patch, which, is also comical because it comes in December, right? But this is 6 months after they released 2021 in their own eyes. And that they've needed this much time to get data, blah, 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 blah. Right. That's the old sales pitch. That's the old way that they discuss balance. That they then said specifically, oh, there's this thing which we think is overperforming. Oh, like mammoths, we over nerfed mammoths. And that they even use like words like, I believe that they use words like oppressive or, too powerful or over nerfed. Just that you're willing to broach those subjects and not just say, oh, this is like a routine patch. Like, this is a routine thing. Like, everything's going to plan. Everything is on point. This is exactly what we always meant. I think is a huge step forward. And particularly Michael was very, very open about that. I still think that Fabio, like you say, is a bit defensive about it. And also, like a bit evasive. Like, there are times when he's like alluding to things. And specifically, I felt like there was a very long period where he alluded to how overpowered flayed men are. Whereas he just wouldn't say the word flayed men, right? He's like, oh, cavalry. And like, he was talking ages about the lance run. He's like, oh, cavalry, this.
Cavalry unit.
Yeah. And you're like, just say fucking flayed men. Everybody knows that's what you mean. Just address the issue in plain sentence. Whereas when Michael says something like, champions of the stag are underperforming, we're going to make them better in grinding combat. You're like, fucking yes, thanks. Nice one, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I wanted to hear. I don't want to hear you allude around maybe an 8-point cavalry is like not is like kind of outperforming and maybe the lance rule will change. Like I liked the more directness. I liked that they confronted their own issues. I think there's a huge step forward.
My actual favorite moment was when Fabio was talking about giants, right? And it's not because it's free folk, but it was the way that Fabio was kind of like, we're going to make them a bit more dangerous in combat and make people think about engaging them. And then Michael just went, yeah, so we're giving them vicious.
Yeah.
It's just like,
exactly.
This is what we're doing. Like, we haven't 100% sorted out the other stuff, but this is what's going to happen. Like, just say it.
The other thing that I wanted to touch base, and kind of it's like puzzles me, and I don't know whether it will be like positive or negative, is the way that they address like cosmetic fixes, quality of life improvement, etc. And I don't really like. I'm not really sure like how to read it, because again, getting back to the 40-point system, if you check like if you change somebody's cost like by 1 point, it's like, I guess it's a small small change for them, but it's a huge change for anybody playing competitively.
Yeah. So
is basically like can make it or break it, like a unit from being completely OP to completely nerfed, and the other way around.
This was they mentioned this about free folk attachments, right? They said they were going to make them cheaper, and I'll be honest with you, there's only
like
two
0 points.
Well, there's only 2 free folk attachments I would even touch, and that's, I mean, skin changes I'm not a fan of. That doesn't mean they're bad, but the Walrus clan chieftains just don't see play in any way, shape, or form anywhere near competitive plays. And the Weeper attachment, which I think people devalue, like at 2 points, it's the worst 2-point attachment named character, and if they want to see it, making it 1. But I was thinking about it, like, and you mentioned it there, like 1-point Weeper attachment suddenly becomes very good.
Yeah.
And it's the granularity there, and he even admits it in that it's like, well, free folk have ways to get effectively free 1-point attachments, so we've got to be very careful how we make a cheap named attachment because it actually could be a problem. The other thing that they kind of definitely touched on, and I did think was kind of like, I guess interesting is to say the least about it. The Sansa area fix. Now, I was talking with some of the guys in the Australian meta about Sansa specifically, in that Sansa's terrible. Like, she's just bad. She has no place in the game right now. If you know anything about the game, you should just not be playing Sansa. And we actually discussed it. We said, right, you have to take Sansa in your list. What are you looking for with that NCU? And basically what it came down to is Sansa's bad, but actually the reason she's bad is because what she does and the way she does it so doesn't work with what Starks are doing. Like, the Stark deck doesn't really want that many cards back that are worthwhile, and you definitely don't want to be taking a tempo hit to get those cards back, because all of those cards are tempo cards.
She's like Cersei Lannister you have at home, and Cersei is already like in the low tier of Lannisters. Like she's, I will never.
And this is it. This is exactly it. Like the Cersei style stuff would actually work really well for Sansa, in that you can get some like key cards that maybe you want out of the deck, you're going to use, whatever. But the tempo loss, and knowing that you're not even gaining tempo with the card you get back, or sustain, or anything, it's just pointless.
And then the other problem is like the zones that Stark want are usually like super useful. And with Lannister, like, I can really see when I want to replace the crown. I mean, like with Preston Greenfield, there are like reasons to have him like in Red Cloaks. For instance, I'd rather have this test with -3 than with -1. But
things like bribery on crowns, take crowns, throw out bribery, gets a card out there. It's better than doing basically fuck all.
But with movement, with movement or attack, like I don't want to sacrifice it. So she's like playing worse than Cersei on in many dimensions, and then Cersei is already like negative elo. So there you go. I mean,
I did notice Belisarius is asking, did Michael accidentally reveal that Champions of the Stag are going to 5 morale? I had noticed that myself, which is that they're not 5 morale, but he actually listed them as a 2+, 5+ morale. 2+ armor save, 5+ morale. And at the time, I did think, so that will be interesting. We'll see if they go to that. It would make them more grindy. Like 5+ to 6+ morale is a big category change. You know, that really helps against the big negative stack ups that we see of vicious and intimidating presence and stuff like that. And when you have good armor like a 2+, morale damage is where the vast majority of your damage ends up coming from. I would say overall, the things that they discussed sounded almost exactly like what the community wanted to hear. Like, I actually do think that it sounded like if you listed the things that the community wanted to hear that were getting changed, then it was those things. So I think that overall, in general, I think that either they've finally got some playtesters who are worth something, or they've finally started listening to the playtesters that they already had. Like, because like basically that was one of the two things. Like, right, that either whoever was playtesting wasn't giving them any useful information back, or that they were and they just weren't listening to them. So it sounds like they're going down the right path. It sounds like they're looking at all the right things. And it's another big question about whether or not they move the dials enough, over move them. Do you know what I mean? And if we just suddenly end up with, like, you know, these just like the Champions of the Stag meta. Like all of a sudden they've overtuned Champions of the Stag, or actually more likely some kind of like Lance Cavalry meta. Like I'd actually be nervous around that or something like that. They're realistic things that could happen if they're still not internally playtesting well enough. But I think that was a huge step forward, except, as you mentioned slightly, I'm concerned about a lack of discussion around Targaryens after they've just released the most obscene unit to date, which is possibly
let's slightly change. We'll slightly change dragons.
Yeah. And because I don't actually think that dragons are the core root issue of Targaryens. I think the Targaryens are very powerful. And then also, like, this idea and listing of Night's Watch, like, there are these couple of specific problems, which if we address them, then suddenly things will be fine. I'm nervous that they're under-touching them. I do think that, yes, like, obviously any nerfs, if done to the very top things in Night's Watch, will help bring them in line. I really, really tell people, like, I really, really warn people, they did not mention Othel and his cards, right? Because they're not going to change cards. So the disparity in the strength of Othel by comparison to other Night's Watch commanders will still remain. Othel will still be your only competitive Night's Watch choice. Othel and Jon. And maybe, like, Brynden, when it all washes out, maybe Brynden will be good, right?
Benjen.
Unless you get two VP for killing Othel, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, like, I don't even think that if they, like, took Hardened away from him completely, that Othel would actually be a bad choice, because his cards are still just amazing. And they sit there and they talk about Relentless and how it's going to become melee only, right? Yes, I think that is a huge step forward, which loads of people have been asking. We will see a huge change and a huge shift away from the Othel crossbow gun line. I actually think that there are tons and tons and tons of Night's Watch builds out there that people haven't bothered to even explore or exploit.
I think Brett's Lanfear's build with double Thorn Bros.
Yeah, you could use.
Actually, personally, I think that Othel Ranger Hunters, if Ranger Hunters don't get changed, Othel in Ranger Hunters, giving them still +1 to hit and +1 attack, means that you're rolling 8 dice on 2+ that hit at melee and then at range. And you can still put that with a Night's Watch captain who can still make a free melee or maneuver, right? They didn't need him for the free shot. I still think that there are tons of things, and actually, like, I would warn, I just warn people against thinking, like, this isn't going to be the end of Night's Watch dominance if they're changing the things that they mentioned.
I think those, as I said, like on Facebook, I think those are changes in the right direction, but I think they're if that's what they're gonna change, but we still don't know what their quality of life change will be. But it feels to me like they could be way too incremental. And for instance, they're changing crossbowmen, but what are they gonna do about, like, huge disparity between the top performing Lannister units and the bottom performing Lannister units? I just want to play, like, my whole all of my models, not just like 4 units plus Boltons, but that is definitely. And with attachments, I mean, they never mentioned they will do something, and yet again, like, for competitive play right now, you take probably like champion of the faith, and that's pretty much all. That's pretty much it. In Starks, you take Mormont veteran. That's pretty much it. And this whole thing with alternative list building was kind of an admission that nobody's taking attachments. And again, like with point granularity, I don't know how this I mean, you cannot solve it through adjusting points because there is not enough granularity, and then they don't mention that they would rework mechanics of the attachments, like significantly. For instance, like the way I would like to see something like this. What is it? Clegane Butcher, for instance. I would love him to get intimidating presence, and then the flayed men lose intimidating presence. I think something like this would be fair.
I think something we haven't touched on, and I am going to get my piece in for this week, which I think is going to be great.
Yeah.
Love it. Is that they talked about nerfs to Night's Watch. You say they also didn't touch Targaryen much, if at all, which is concerning, of course. And they talked about consistent buffs for free folk. Now, this concerns me actually quite a lot, because I am of the opinion that what you will see continuous free folk dominance at top meta stuff. And this is where we're gonna look at one of the newer filters on the site that people haven't been aware of as much. But we're gonna look at data, and there's one specific thing we've talked about before, Carlo, right? But at the very high level, free folk post an exceedingly high win rate in comparison to what they're like at the low levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's quite damning that they can post, specific builds are posting nearly 80%. You combine it with the 8 activation builds, and you're looking anywhere between 60%, which at the high level is pretty damning.
But then again, I mean, kind of hopefully they will, if they will just give giants vicious on the top level, they wouldn't start taking giants because of that.
Well, this is actually the irony,
so
right?
it will just stand.
This is the irony,
the current free folk meta. Huh?
I think most free folk players are already only really running one list. Most free folk players, okay, you run 2 in a tournament, but you only really play one of them. So if you enable a second list, you end up with mad list chicken, or even like a more oppressive thing to cover the weaknesses. This is what people talk about uncovering the problems.
Fair enough.
Especially, I mean, as much as I would love mammoths to be good, if mammoths are good, dealing with a mammoth is very different to dealing with a unit of raiders, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm nervous about. I'm a little bit nervous about a free folk overtune. Free folk have always been one of the. I would say that they are like the current equivalent of like the Stark direwolf spam, which is that there are builds out there that are way more powerful than the average player understands, and that you just don't see them. Like, you don't see them in your shop, so that's why people aren't concerned about them, and why they don't have a high rating, and why we don't see them dominating tournaments. But I would be nervous around a free folk overtune, also because I believe that there are very few people out there who can play test them to the kind of standard that you would see what they're really capable of.
I agree.
Like, I've always said, like, I don't actually particularly believe in high skill and low skill factions. I do believe that like certain factions have very specific builds that are very good, and then like trash tier build, or like average tier builds, and then like really powerful builds. And that if you have a base level of competency and you give that amazing build to that base level of competency player, then they'll do really well with it. It's not massively skillful to pilot, but most people will not ever come up with that build because it's quite askew, it's quite severe. We're talking about things like in like 1.6, where in 1.6 we're talking about take all 3 direwolves, even though it means that you take shit units, including taking things like taking the Stormcrow mercenaries to reduce the cost, even though like everybody would have said back then that Stark's One Swords are better than mercenaries. Or for Lannisters being like, you know what, I'm going to take entirely 100% poor fellows, and people are like, but they're crap, and it's like, no. Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't understand how good they are, particularly when they're spammed, and I think that is difficult for them to playtest. You have to be very close to the game to understand those builds and to see those builds. And even the people who are very close to the game, they don't come up with them instantly. So I think that it is very limited. And so I am nervous. I am nervous about a free folk overtune because I think that they currently exist in that state right now. But I am more nervous about a lack not hitting the Night's Watch in a broad enough sense. Like, I think that the Night's Watch and their deck being able to stack multiple buffs through the vows on units, particularly Othel being the keyest part of that because he can add his own cards on top. And the fact that just all across the board, their 7-point units are really, really great. And unless I'm mistaken, unless I missed something, nobody mentioned conscripts, who are the huge, huge, huge problem. Like, how are we
I don't
not?
think they did. And also, like they said in the chat, like if they would just like slightly, again, we need to see what their dragon debuff will be. But Targaryens might stay there. In my opinion, like 6-point cavalry is just way too good. I mean, nobody have it, and like you get a 5/5 unit, which also very very well kind of like very well stacked up with your cards. I don't think Outriders are that bad. I think it's just that Targaryens have much better choices.
Yeah. And so yeah, I'm nervous. I'm nervous about the Targs as well. But like, they claim to be moving everything in the right direction. Like, they talk about the things that are too powerful as being too powerful. They talk about the things that nobody's fielding as being too weak. So they're clearly looking at the game in the right way. The question is whether or not we believe that their internal testing will come up with an answer which is necessarily better. I do actually believe that they will come up with a better solution. I always just tell people, don't expect a perfect one. Do not expect it to be perfect. Do not expect the game to suddenly be balanced. Do not expect specifically that Night's Watch and Targaryens are not going to continue to win tournaments.
Question to you guys: will you reset the power ranking, not the player ranking, but the power ranking ELO once the balance update kicks in?
No, for units, probably yes. I'll probably redo the unit one because, like I say, that's actually not self-balancing. It doesn't correct itself. They will remain high, the things that are high, and I would like to see what effect the units are having since the change. But factions and commanders will, because of the way ELO is built, because of the maths behind it, it will correct itself very, very fast. If there's a step change in the performance of something, it will shoot up or shoot down. If Night's Watch aren't super powerful anymore, they will fall very, very quickly. If anything, the problem with the system is actually it's too reactive. It's not, people are like, oh, they change all the time. And it's like, well, they don't really, Barrow's always bottom, Night's Watch always top. The rest, well,
everyone else works out.
Who knows on any given day. They won't reset. That shouldn't be an issue. They should. If you go way back to the very start of 2021, within the first month, things reached their final resting point. It will only take like a month or less for things to sort themselves out.
And there's a lot of people in the mid-ground at the moment. When I was looking at it the other day, Greyjoy's Lannister's Free Folk and Stark are all within 2.5 ELO of each other, which is like the equivalent of very few games. Like,
that is literally nothing.
There's literally one or two games difference there.
That's a expected 49 to 51% win rate.
And they're so close that when I lost on to Carlo on Friday, I think that game was enough to put Lannisters ahead of Free Folk. Like, that's how close they are, because the ELO difference between them is so small. They're for all intents and purposes, those four factions are kind of balanced with each other.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of ELO and commanders and tournaments. Like, I have some kind of theories, but why? But I mean, they're kind of like not convincing enough to me. Why Mountain and Tywin are so bad?
I know why Mountain.
I can say my theories like first, and then let's validate. So with Mountain, I mean, he's in the starter, so maybe a lot of people just play him like at the get-go. Okay, that's one like is a miss, I see.
No, this is just my opinion, right? But I'll tell you this: in my opinion, starter or not starter, aggressive commanders are always worse than you think they are, because aggression is not the key to winning this game. Particularly, aggression from your commander is not the key to winning this game, because your commander killing things does not earn you anything, but your commander being defensive and sitting on objectives does win you games. So I think that when you look at all the aggressive commanders, they always perform worse than people think they should. So that's Andrew Estamont.
We check this. Gregor, lowest Lannister. Let's go to Stark. Yeah. Is it going to be Great John? Oh, look, it's Great John Umber. Right? Is neutral up next? Neutral, who cares? Dario,
still aggressive.
He's the aggressive one. Night's Watch, Offal is the most powerful.
Is Alistair
interesting?
Aggressive? Yeah, Alistair.
Alistair's aggressive, inverted commas, but it's actually the other way around. Offal scores the most because he powers up his other units, not him. Notice, an aggressive commander all about attacking, but it powers up the other units. Free folk, guess what? It's Tormund. Yeah. We go to Baratheon, and guess what? It's Andrew Estamont, right? You know this is
mountain you have at home.
Yeah, the mountain.
Yeah.
Targaryen. As much as we think he's good, Khal Drogo is really the worst.
He says that Drogo is a successful commander. I think Drogo is an amazing commander. I think that he has really good cards. I think he has a really good ability.
Yep.
I think the Blood Riders are really, really good. He still comes almost bottom,
which is mental because he's really good.
This is very weird. This is probably like the next thing I'm afraid to play into after the Mother of Dragons.
Yeah.
Because I've literally my only idea how to effectively counter him is to take Tywin, NCU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
Tywin is different, and I.
No. Tywin, no. I meant Tywin and CU.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Why do you think that Tywin's so low? Because this is actually something that I can't answer.
So with Tywin, it's kind of interesting because definitely he's not in the base. He's in Hero Box 1. So by that point, people picked up something. I think his cards, you need to realize that one of his cards is amazing, and two others are poor crap, or at best is just crap, or at best are very, very situational. And this is the first part. And second, you need to understand you need to put your commander in your kind of weakest unit and play defensively, so you need to put him either in Blackguard or Poor Fellows, and I've seen his people defending his builds in Guardsmen, and then so I guess those are people I have to thank for my elo score at the tournament. And then again, I guess you want this 8 activation build, and I think I have a pretty good build for him. If you take the look at the tournament, and then for this build you need one unit which is not widely available. So the Red Cloaks, and the other which is Kickstarter exclusive.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is the only effective build, but it's pretty good one, because you play you obviously play you play issue commands on your Red Cloaks, and you can just win a game by that.
Yeah.
Because also it's a big gotcha, because people don't expect it, and you have you have 2 panic tests and pretty good attack incoming, and that's enough to win a game.
Yeah.
I don't have a straight answer for it. I do think that Tywin is generally lower rated than I think that his ability is. While he's not starter set, I do semi-agree with what Carl says, which is I feel there are certain characters that people are drawn to as less experienced players, and whether or not it's they want to build a thematic army based around this person, or like this is just the first person that they want to put on the table. I do think that that is very much where like these really big name characters, particularly ones that are big in the book and in the TV show, and that people like just really generally like. They like that character. I do find
Can
that
they go
all of
for
those.
Jamie rather?
Well, I do think that Jamie. Well, actually, I would agree that I think that Jamie is also underranked currently, which is I've been playing him recently. I think that he's actually quite good, whereas his rating has always been below average. Like I think that he's definitely in the good category, and actually, I would put him better than. That's hard. I think I would put him better than Tywin myself. He's a bit of a different character. Jamie is almost in the aggressive characters kind of bracket, because Jamie doesn't want to be. He is defensively mindseted, but he's very self-orientated. Maybe aggressive and defensive are the wrong keywords. What he is he's entirely focused on his own unit and its fighting capacity, whereas commanders that give out buffs to units around them, ideally in the case of Othel, that give table-wide buffs, table-wide instant buffs, table-wide permanent buffs. They're the kind of things that actually win the game, not things like distract and counterstrike on your own unit, right? As amazing as those abilities are at a high level, your opponent's just like, well, I just want to attack you.
Can I be honest
I frankly,
with Tywin?
Huh?
Can I be honest with Tywin? There's a reason he's shit
Yeah.
or not performing well. And it's a common theme I've seen when I look at commanders across every single faction, right? And I think this is something that needs to really be addressed in when you're looking at commander power levels. It's the ease of use and impact that their cards have.
Mm-hmm.
Exploit weakness is an okay card. But it's only okay, right? It's only okay. It's swapping a weakened for a panic and a vulnerable. And in a world where Warcry exists, that's not that good. Throw it away. Broken Resolve. When a weakened combat unit activates, -2 to its morale tests. Ah, yeah. So, yes, Horrific Visage is now a -5 test, except I'm definitely not going to attack you if I'm weakened and you're Horrific Visage. That's stupid. So, crap. Issue Commands. Yeah, it's an okay card. So you're paying all of that.
No, Issue Commands is a fantastic card. It's not okay.
But it directly conflicts with his own order threaten.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
his own trigger.
No, it does not. It does not, because you don't do an action, but you still activate.
Yeah, you can't use the order and the card at the same time. It's the same trigger.
Yeah.
When the unit is.
Now we find out why Peter's been doing so well with Tywin. He's been cheating. No.
When the unit
activates.
It's the same trigger.
Conflicting triggers, guys. Yeah.
But this is why Tywin's not very good. Because if you look at the impact...
He has self-conflicting triggers, and he only has one good card, and his one good card conflicts with his triggers, which is that's the simple answer. But I do think that the slightly more complex answer is that all characters who are like really, really huge personalities and aren't played because somebody looks at their rules and says, oh, I want those specific rules, I want that tactics card, I want that ability, and I'm going to create a list around it. When people are just like, hey, I want to play Tywin in like classic Lannisters, is I think that does lead to them not being as powerful. I'd be interested to know. I think you can go on Tywin's, don't even know my own site. I think you go on Tywin and maybe have a look at his win rate by various builds. And I would say that there's probably an 8 activation build with him that actually does reasonably well, and that he has a ton of 7 activation builds that do really badly.
I mean,
it's
a theme across every commander, though, right? If their cards are difficult,
but I think it would be specific, like even more strong for those commanders that are like casually played. That there would still be lists that do really, really well with them, but that it's not, but that they're not generically bad. It's just that they see more play with bad lists.
I mean, I agree about the conflict, and the other conflict is with his like issue commands card and the what is it? This exploit weakness card that you kind of you make an action with another unit, and then yeah. But I think it is.
I'm sorry,
still,
but look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Yeah.
Okay.
6, 7, 8. Look, he is a decent commander at 8. He wins 60 odd % of the time, but everybody's playing him at casual 6 and 7, and his win rate is fucking atrocious, right?
Except, but if we look, but that's
because
misnomer.
You're playing casual lists. He sees more play in casual lists than most other commanders.
Misnomer as well. You're looking directly at win rate, not ELO, and win rate doesn't conflict. So if you actually look, he's only beating Baratheons, Greyjoys, and Starks. Everyone else, he's just fucking losing to horrifically. Like, so it's not like he's meta defining or he's underranked.
Yeah,
it's
but
just
you're
he's
not.
only good
You're
against
not looking at his win rate at 8 activations, right? I still believe that he's got okay stats against everybody with that 8. But this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Like, I want us to be able to dig down. This is the only reason why I'm always like, hey, give more data, because it's not because the ELO rankings are wrong or anything like that. But if you want to be able to dig down, there aren't enough results yet. Like, once you want to get really specific, if I want to look at like 8 activations with Tywin versus this thing, that's where it's like, oh, there's not enough data. There is absolutely 100% enough data to say this is the order of things. This is what's good. This is what's not good. This is powerful units. This is not powerful units. But please keep submitting your data, particularly with the less loved commanders, because that's the thing that we don't have enough information to be able to dig down into like root causes of.
It's interesting that you mentioned. Go on, finish us off, Peter.
I just wanted to say it's kind of like funny thing that like you have this like a thing with a badge run-in where I need to play different commanders, and now I have the inverse problem. I need now to get wins in the system with the best commanders because of the ELO events. I keep playing Tywin and Mountain. So I'm making like my way up basically the ladder. So tomorrow I guess I'll have to play with High Sparrow, and then I will need to. I'm not that great of a Tyrion player. I think I played like once or twice with him, but I haven't yet got a hold of this. So I'm already like dreaded.
I'm sure it's the better direction to go, though. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who only play Tyrion, only play Roose, only play High Sparrow, whatever it is, and they're like, "Oh my god, I have to get win with Gregor. Oh my god, I have to get win with these things."
But I was like, oh, okay, like I'm like right now I will have like 2 ELO tournaments like in November, and I know I wouldn't be able to use them towards the badge. I would need to play like those games probably in the league or just casually like with people.
So you're just gonna have to submit all your games, Peter. That's how it works. I
know. I mean, usually I would just like play on the tournament and maybe
dangling that badge in front of you. Just wait until the neutral one comes along, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, you expect me to play Vargo and Dario?"
So
Vargo is not horrible, especially if you get the what is it, Clash of Kings.
Yeah, just go snipe the enemy commander.
Win. And and don't kill the unit, so it can't.
Can't come back.
So the other thing I wanted to touch upon during the tournament, if you that we figured out, is that basically like I lost the first game, and Marstara was playing like flawlessly the first 3 with Tormund, so he did as good as you could do, and the last game basically like whoever would win an ELO event, it came down to who will get paired to. So he got quote lucky and got paired against like Night's Watch, and then I knew like basically like I got paired against Renly, which is super high. But the problem is if he got paired against pretty much anybody else than Nightwatch, he wouldn't have won it, and that could feel a little bit bad. And he was playing like the lowest elo commander, so that was a little bit his kind of bite into that, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that does get discussed a lot, and I do agree that while I don't openly admit it to be like a complete flaw, it is definitely like a quirk of the system, which is that who you get paired against does have an outcome on what you are able to earn from any given game. I would my only counter argument is that, like, well, if you get paired with Night's Watch Gunline in round 1, then that's no different. Like in an open tournament, like who you get paired with also matters. But because people see it affect their actual tournament points rather than like the result of their game or their chance of getting a crushing win or their chance of only getting a narrow win, I think people feel it so much more keenly. And I think like that is actually the intent of the ELO tournament. Is yes, I do believe that like it helps create a more balanced playing field. Like I really do think that. Actually, if anything, what it's trying to do is it's trying to really just push right in front of your face in terms of like numbers that you can read in terms of like who wins a tournament and who loses a tournament. It tries to shove it in your face in a way that you can't ignore. This is how powerful things in the game are right now, and you need to be aware of it. And I think that just that, like, really saying there is somebody in every game who is the favorite to win based on what faction they're playing. And if that's a big margin, then we should address that. It's kind of what it's trying to do. It's always tried to do that. And I'm really glad that people are taking it on and that there's been, big TTS events and that yourself and others are really running with it in person, which I think is where it's better. Like, I do definitely think it's better in person. I think that
I never played on TTS.
Yeah, I think that it particularly over like the 5-6 week period, I will agree that it has a extra added element of like randomness of which direction your commanders go in terms of what their rating is and things like that. So I would agree that I don't say it's perfect. I do believe it's better.
Look, like me personally, I'm a big fan, but my point is like I want it to be sort of like accepted by everybody, and I want to have something to kind of like some argument to say so we could attract like the best players to it and make it more like a first class citizen. I mean, make it the other way around, like on the next London GT. So you play on Friday non-ELO like Author Gunline, and on Saturday you play ELO main event. Then I'll come.
Yeah, I think that it can do. I think that the barriers are just around like community acceptance and those kind of things. But obviously it's all there, and that I do believe that it's a better tournament, the better tournament format, the better scoring system, right? Like that's the thing. Like that's the thing that I think that people get really they really don't appreciate and get entirely caught up on. It doesn't change the game. Like it hasn't actually changed any single rule of the game. Like bans are introducing new rules. They're saying, I'm going to change this unit to be like have different rules. It is the game to all intents and purposes exactly 100% as the designers intended it to be. The only difference is that we weight your scoring based on things that we've measured. And I think that if we can make people understand that, and that if that can gain wider acceptance, people need a certain level of investment or a certain level of acceptance that like maybe they don't understand the scoring system, but they'll accept it anyway. But it seems that I think most people really, really want to understand the scoring system, and it's not super straightforward.
One more thing before we move on or wrap up or whatever. That I wanted to add, you really want at least 4 games in your ELO event to matter.
Yeah, I would agree that the more games you can play, the better. The systems that I've seen use it best so far have actually been round robin systems, where every player plays every other player. It takes away that idea and that concept that, oh, I got unlucky because I didn't get paired against this person that I could score lots of points against. And so it becomes a complete question of just like who performed the best with their faction relative to what was expected of them. And the more games you have, the longer you have to achieve that. But every single tournament system out there, Swiss draw, strength of schedule, ELO, anything that you can think of, tournament knockout, they're all basically trying to achieve a system where they say, I can work out who's the best without having to play too many games, right? Because that's always the limiting factor. The more games you play, the more accurately you will be able to say this was definitely the best person on this day. But we are always limited by how much time we have. As soon as you have more than like 5 or 6 people, you're never going to play a round robin anymore. So realistically, you're going to have to move to a new system, be that Swiss draw, be that ELO, which is effectively just Swiss draw with some extra steps, or strength of schedule, which is also Swiss draw with some extra steps.
And then the other problem is that, like, realistically, 4 games is already kind of stretched for a single day event.
Yeah.
And then definitely I wouldn't play 5 games. We played 4 like this time, and it felt good, but 5th one wouldn't be there.
I'm in for a 7 or 8 game day, I reckon. Me and Carlo might whip one of those out at Christmas.
It's funny, because like I've played tournaments and I've played 4 games in a day, and I've been like, oh my, like Jesus, my ears are melting. Like I can feel my brain like trickling out of my eyes. Like I'm just absolutely done. But on the flip side, like actually sometimes on a Friday night, we go and play at the games club. We can play as late as we want. We'll start at 7 o'clock and we'll still play 3 games in a night. Like we'll be playing until like 2 a.m. And I never feel the same when I play that way. But I guess it's just a slightly different environment. It's a lot quieter. There's only a few people playing. There's not like noise everywhere. We just like start a game, play a game. There's no time pressure. And so I do think that tournaments are quite an intense period, and I do think that more than 3 is a very difficult day. Like more than 3 is full on. Like it is full on.
Right then, just a quick shout out to chat. Some things people saying. Rattleshirt gives like global buffs or buffs, so that must mean Rattleshirt's better. No, because Rattleshirt requires you to actually do things. The triggers aren't hard. Remember, the trigger and the effect matters. The effects are trivial compared to the actual trigger. So yeah, that's why he's not as good. Other things, people saying they won't admit balance. Okay, everyone here knows what the balance is. You might be quite new here, Terra, but everybody here constantly berates Simon for every mistake they make. But, we're also fair to them. So yeah. Targs have to play Wario. Yeah, they have to play Wario. They do have to play Targ.
They have to play him twice, actually. I hadn't even thought about that. They have to play him for their own badge, and then they have to play him for the neutral.
And then neutral Dario, and when they keep losing with Targ Dario and keep winning with neutral Dario, they have to go, why is the Targ version of Dario worse? Because he is. Why? Just... Anyway, yeah. Anyway, to 2 more things we've got to cover. The 3 more things we've got to cover, and we're already 2.5 hours in. This is a long one. We've got the badge update now. Carlo ran the script for the badge update last night, / this morning. I'm not going to go through everyone's names, but I am just going to scroll down. There are a couple of people I want to shout out. Obviously, Podwis, myself with Free Folk, Carlo with Lannister, Jimbo Stark, LM still with his neutrals, Flixie with Baratheon. What a legend.
Ooh-wee! Big man. That's a Baratheon win as well. That's not even dark Baratheons.
Hilo, he doesn't count, he's an idiot. With Night's Watch. Mikkel with 3, he's got Greyjoy, he has neutral, and he has Lannister. What a legend Mikkel is. If you ever want to... I mean, Mikkel plays so many games, right? On a morning, Mikkel will probably be looking for a game. If you want to play on TTS, definitely hit him up. Then we got a couple more, like...
Doug, it will happen by next month, Doug. So when I next run the script, it will definitely happen. I just... You know what? I had everything... Like all the things I needed, it just didn't happen.
He made a mistake.
Congratulations on your on your Lannister badge, though. I didn't know you were such a connoisseur of a wonderful faction like myself.
Rob Shepherd, what a legend! I mentioned him in the Free Folk video that I did. Yeah, Rob is Infinity player, very good player. Definitely watch him out. Yeah, Doug creeping in with his Lannisters there. Some more Greyjoy neutral. Dwan Ring already had his Greyjoys, I think. Another neutral though. Respect. Dark Angel. Look at that. He's got his lit free folk, but he didn't manage to get his last win. He can't get a win with Joffrey, I think it is. Sad
Honestly,
times.
I was lucky to get mine.
Yeah, I wouldn't say lucky.
I don't know. I kind of disagree. I mean, especially like Joffrey is not that bad in my opinion. I had quite some good times with him. Of course, if you don't play into Targaryen and Free Folk and Night Watch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Otherwise, he's
yeah. So
good.
just play against weak stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that's what stats are all about.
Yeah. Prince Whiskey with his lit Baratheon as well. Sorry, lit Lannister. And I'm not gonna. Friendly Fried Octopus has got his. I think he already had his Greyjoys, but yeah. Less towards the
Interesting.
bottom.
So, what I haven't seen is I see a lot of Greyjoy. I see a lot of Lannister. I also see a decent number of Night's Watch actually, which I find surprising.
At least unlit Night's Watch. People have played all the commanders. Yeah.
Yeah. I was very pleased to see both Ben and Flixie both pick up the Baratheon one, which I think's
Ben's been on
a real true testament. Like I really think that's a slog. There's a lot of them, and they vary wildly in how good they are. I do think that I think that it's interesting that we haven't seen, I believe, any Targaryens, right? So there's no Targaryens.
Single Targaryen.
And I believe there's none of something else, but I can't put my finger on it now.
I think there's no lit Stark.
It might be that. Yeah. Starks are relatively rare considering like how like they are the main protagonists. But yeah, like I think it's been I've been really pleased the response and the way that which people have like taken on the challenge, taken on the desire to go and get this badge. Obviously it doesn't mean anything, it doesn't help your rating, it doesn't do anything like that, but it just shows that you know you want people to recognize that you're trying for everything. Is that non-lit Stark?
Unlit Targ.
Yeah.
We have
unlit
got
Targ. Okay, that might
Targ.
be the only Targ. The only Targ has played.
No lit Starks and no
Yeah.
lit Targaryens. Oh no, Jimbo's got the lit Stark. Of course he has.
Yeah.
I feels like I'm short.
And the other thing is like
people say in the chat, stop picking on your guest. Did you? I mean, do I have to feel offended for something?
I don't know. Clearly, we have. Anyway, shut up, Peter. No one cares.
Dan's probably watching like 5 hours behind. But the other thing is, I think it's super interesting is that like, I think it's crazy that Mikhail has these 3 badges. Like, I really do think it's crazy, and yet it comes back to this like thing that I originally said. He's played less than half of the commanders there, right? Like in total in the game. And I really genuinely come back to this idea that I am convinced that nobody in the game has played with every commander faction combo that there is. Like, I really am. I'm just flat out convinced. Nobody has.
He's played 105 games, which is close to probably the maximum of anyone's played, and he's only got through 3 factions, probably with like a couple of other factions here and there with like a sprinkling of commanders at most. Like, yeah. And this is a guy who plays a lot. Like, he plays a lot. Like he's been looking for games basically every single day of the week for the last month. So yeah, I mean, shout out to Mikhail, massive grats for that. And he obviously played in Spain with all the big tournaments. So yeah, we've covered that. The next thing I want to cover is the tournaments that are upcoming, and there are some coming up tournaments. We're going to rattle through this stuff real quick, guys, just because we've gone on and on and on today. No offense to Peter at all. It's been great chat, but it is getting on. So This week we have got tomorrow a 30 points ELO tournament in Wrocław, Poland. See the Polish guys, right? They
in the Bolter store. I see them run a number of events. Do you know it yourself?
Yeah, I've been to one of the events, but it was like in a pre-ELO, like got slaughtered by, I think by Podvis. So now I feel good about it. Now he's a top 1 player.
Yeah.
Like awesome guys. By the way, it's Wrocław. It's not Wrocław.
Okay.
It's basically like in German, W is pronounced like V. But yeah, they have like a great store there and a great community over there.
It's very random that they're doing it from 3 till like they're doing it after work. It looks like you're gonna finish work and then go to the store. It's 3 GMT, which it'll be like 5 Poland time or something. But yeah,
3 GMT would be 4, I guess.
4 Poland time at the moment.
Yeah, you need to end your work very, very early, I suppose.
Take
well, 10 of them have committed to going, so I hope they turn up and play. It looks interesting.
You've got Winter's Coming 2 Gamers Haven event running this weekend as well. I believe they're doing an alt list format though.
42-point alt list. Yeah, I think
alt list.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then we've got on Sunday. Yeah, exactly. Then on Sunday we've got an Italian tournament in San Colombo's castle, which if it is held in a castle, that's amazing. Malta and Italy do these things in castles and stuff like this. For anyone who watched Age of Empires 2, they had a massive event where their championship was held in an actual castle for the Red Bull Waterloo series, which is
we should totally do this too in Poland. Like they run LARPs in castles, so we're not worse than them.
Yeah, exactly. Do that. And then we've also got another event in Italy on Sunday as well. The first edition of what is called Gaiokira in the Palazzo Doria Palimpia in San Martino. Yes, those are all the events coming up this weekend. We've got another event happening next weekend, which you'll probably be aware of, Peter, which is the one in Poznan.
I'm in there.
You're going to there? Cool. So obviously we'll probably get some feedback, or you'll let us know how that's gone, so that'd be great. And that's all the events this week. We won't go over events that have just ended, purely because we talked about one and it's now nearly 3 hours long. We will, however, finish off with there were 2 videos released this week. We released a video on Free Folk, which I just did. Spent about an hour, 2 hours talking about Free Folk, which people hate. And people seem to like that kind of stuff. And not necessarily my takes on it, my agreement. And you don't have to agree with me, right? You don't have to agree with me. That's the beauty of this. But it's the style.
Will you make a Lannister? Will you make a Lannister guide?
That's a good question. Will I make a Lannister guide? I will.
No, Carlo.
Me.
Yeah.
For you, Peter, if Mickey edits it, then maybe yes. The actual difference is, if I guess you're just talking about a generic guide. I don't really have any TTS games recorded to talk over anymore, but okay, maybe. I'll do a guide for you, Peter. Before Christmas is what I promise. Well, I promise that I'll give it to Mickey to edit before Christmas.
So, this is actually another thing we'll talk about in a minute. But so that is happening. We're potentially looking at that. We obviously had the Ariakas video for Baratheons and his take on Baratheons, which, if you've not checked it out, really do check it out. It's really interesting. I'll be honest with you, after doing... I was going to edit it, and I did some editing on it and things like this here and there. But ultimately, I was listening through to make audio checks were okay, the video was okay. And I did actually, when I was listening, I was properly listening to his Baratheon list choices and the way he thinks about his Baratheon lists. And it is very interesting to hear someone else talk about it, because he thinks about it in a way that I think I used to when I was first starting to build lists in 2021 and 1.6. So definitely check out that video, even if it's just for the lists. The game itself, I haven't had a chance to watch properly because I'll be brutally honest, I haven't had the time. I edited it.
I'm sorry. Did Mickey just say that the way Ariakas builds Baratheon lists is like the way I originally basically started looking at things, but now I'm so adept.
No.
I've so adapted and moved on. I'm so ahead of Ariakas and his list building mentalities. I've moved on.
No, what I mean to say is the way he thinks about his lists for Brathians is how like I was thinking about free folk lists. Like I don't do it anymore because I just know what's good and bad, and I like have preconceived notions. I know.
Oh yeah,
what I'm
it
doing.
is very interesting.
Yeah,
It's interesting. Yeah, I really like the video from Ariakas. It's very interesting that he discusses the Baratheons from the perspective of a very good player who's not a dedicated Baratheon player. I've taken Baratheons. They're my third, fourth choice in the Team Super League because everybody else is taking the factions that I think are actually really good. So what can I do with this faction that I don't actually think is amazing? And I think that is a really refreshing viewpoint, to accept the faction's flaws and then try and push it as hard as possible anyway, as opposed to like just saying, oh yeah, but Baratheons are great. Like, no, they're not. Like, let's be realistic. He's very realistic. There are these weaknesses. How can we overcome them?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. It's like, right, you accept these things and then you just move straight to the solution part, which I think is really good. And when I say, I mean, people think I'm taking the piss there. You've got to remember I've listened to these videos multiple times in the editing process. Like, some sentences I've heard like 8 times. That doesn't mean I commit them to memory. I actually stop listening. I won't tell you about the heartbreak I used to have editing some of Carlo's stuff, where I legitimately would not listen to him anymore. I couldn't do it. Anyway, more of that stuff coming. One thing that me and Carlo are looking to do, which is going to help him inadvertently, is we're going to potentially look at running live streaming and or just recording games that we have on a Friday night, which we will be, obviously if we're live streaming them you guys can see it, but if we're recording them, what we'll do is we'll do a post-recording audio type thing, talking about the games, talking about thoughts and things like that, which we'll do, and then we'll be able to
you can watch me smash Mickey every week on the regular.
Yeah, you can watch him absolutely rip ones out of me. So yeah, that's something we're looking at doing. So check that out if you're interested. Obviously, we'll post about it. We'll let you know. And finally, we couldn't have a full week of Tourney Ground and nearly 3 hours. We couldn't do of that without each week having the most important part attributed to Carlo, Peter. Cool mini or not?
0.
I concur.
Oh, Peter, you bastard! You horrible bastard! No.
Yeah, I'm Slavic. I mean, you're just playing a Slavic dude. Like, you remember those those memes from the internet with this like opinion distribution, like North America objective distribution and Eastern Europe, like Americans like everything's awesome, like what is it, and Eastern Europe is like, what is this shit? And the best one is like, oh, even so.
Interesting use of full non-metallic metal. I think that the cloak, I really like the cloak, and I really like the base too. I'm gonna be controversial for some people. I am not just like blanket pro non-metallic metal. I actually like metallic metals.
I mean, I wish the shield was a little bit more interesting. I wish like he like it wasn't like full metal, because I don't think it's supposed to be metal on the inside. It's supposed to be only the metal frame.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have that sculpt, obviously.
Yeah.
I wasn't really drawn to it. Like, actually, I prefer the other. I have the 2 other Champions of the Faith, the one that comes in the box and the alt sculpt Champion of the Faith, and I prefer both of those sculpts. So that's the Kickstarter exclusive one. I prefer both of those over the then attachment box alt one.
Right.
Although the shield like is interesting, I don't like the fact that he's the only one with a shield.
Yeah. kind of doesn't justify the 4+ save.
So we've got another one from this person as well. Now this one might be the very first model and/or picture to receive a non-zero score. So let's have a look.
Is it going to be -1?
High five.
That. That's the most 0 I've ever given. That's really nice. That's really nice.
Those are converted. What is
Rose
it?
Knights.
The Rose
that's
Knights
Rose-
converted to.
Lannister.
And
Rose
using
Knight's
the
converted
shield.
to, I think, guess guardsman, or it's hard to
Yeah,
say
and
exactly what he reveals them as, but yeah.
And I think they're using shields from Sentinel Enforcers. So the guy was
Some
buying
of them, I
like
think,
Sentinel Enforcers on purpose from people who don't need them anymore.
Potentially. Or maybe he's
Oh,
just
yeah,
green
yeah.
sculpted or something.
Yeah, there's probably a green stuff mold or something like that.
Or maybe it might be the put on.
Fuck yeah, that's nice stuff.
I would totally admit it as a proxy for Red Cloaks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'm not gonna whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, put it on the
you
board.
Just want to see these on the table. That's it.
Yeah, you can tell me they're flayed men if you want. Like they're nice. They're the gold. The gold is beautiful. See, so I really like that non-metallic on the flag because the flag isn't metal. I eat my own words, which is at this distance and across all of the models, the non-metallic on the metal looks great at that kind of distance. Also, partly because it's a lot less and there's a whole lot more red going on. I really do think that it helps balance out the non-metallic. And times like that where you're like, yeah, non-metallic is great. It's when it's overbearing on the model, when the model is nearly all metallic, that's when I personally dislike it. But that's the best Lannister unit I've ever seen, and
Zero.
they're not a Lannister unit.
Still a 0 though, Carlo. Still a 0.
Mickey,
yeah.
Do you want to
0 out of 10.
Yeah. Do you want to pull some images from with the units from our ELO event, or or it's like people send it to you to get slaughtered?
People usually send it. I do have some.
Yeah, you got to want to receive a 0 rating because I don't want to go out there and be mean.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't
tell
want
everybody
to be mean,
that their
Carlo,
rating's
really?
0.
Okay.
I will say, Naklab in chat was right. These are from Yannick. Yannick sent me them earlier today to review and to kind of put them up on there. And yeah, I mean, Yannick's a very good painter.
Yannick, that's good stuff.
And yeah, I mean, this is the first unit that Carlo we've seen on here that Carlo probably wouldn't rate a 0, but out of principle will. So take it as the highest rated 0 that we've ever given out.
0.0.
That's how numbers work. Right. Anyway, thank you very much, Peter, for joining us this week. Thank you very much to chat.
Thank you guys for having me.
It
was an amazing experience for me.
Good. It's been nearly 3 hours, which is ridiculous. I blame entirely Carlo for everything that we've ever had problems with.
I blame me too.
Distribution. Yeah, we'll see you next week, where we will be back with probably some more interesting stuff about some more crazy things. Check out Spanish Asmodee tomorrow morning when they'll no doubt post Lannister Heroes 5. Which may or may not happen, of course. And apart from that, guys, have a great week and enjoy your all games of Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah, let's just finish by reminding people the Always Winter GT, which I believe Peter will be at in Scotland. I think
there are 3 conditions. There are 3 conditions, Carlo. First,
COVID,
it's like COVID, affordable tickets. And the most important one, New Balance.
So I think you'll get the first 2.
We'll see you in 2024.
You mean I get killed by the first 2?
But yeah, the Always Winter GT in Scotland.
January, end of January, I believe John Craig's just been in the chat to say that it's been confirmed that there will be CMON support. I'm not gonna. I don't have any information about how big that will be, but obviously that was huge for the London GT. I believe that they are down to 15 tickets remaining of I think was 60,
54,
maybe
54, right?
54.
I think it was 12 left when I got mine.
Well, there you go. So we're at over 40 tickets sold of 54. I think that we're gonna hit that, and I'm really hoping and expecting on the day we're talking about a 50-player event. So we're talking about the same kind of size as the London GT here, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. It'll actually be the first really big event that I will have played in as opposed to run. I'll see as many of you there as possible, and hopefully even Peter. But Peter, I really can't promise you. I can't promise you any balance patch, and I would say if that's the requirement, then maybe I won't see you there.
Right then.
Or okay, thank you so much, guys, in the comments. Really, really nice to hear that it didn't suck for you.
It didn't suck. Better than the.
That's what we think
chat,
every
right?
week.
Better than community chat. That's all that matters.
We can do it after the Polish tournament. So after the ELO event.
Cool. Yeah, no, definitely.
So I remind you, Carlo, every 2 weeks I will remind you to make the whole army ELO.
Every week, yeah.
Every day.
After you've asked enough times, it will eventually happen.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us today, guys. Thanks again for Peter. Thanks again to Carlo. Thanks to all the memers, including main mean man himself, Marwin. And yes, we will see you all again next week. Same time, in the new time, same place. Take it easy, guys. Ready, aim, release! Anyone see my mammoth?